So we discussed it. I also talked about it on my show as well. And some people are saying, why are the civil rights organizations pushing Biden so hard? Why don't they wait till he makes his decisions? Why are they criticizing his decisions? Why are they, well, why don't they wait till he makes all the decisions? That's not how the sausage gets made. That's not how you do this. You don't wait until all the decisions are made. Okay, then you come out and express your opinion. You push your agenda now during the decision-making process so that some of those decisions are favorable for you. Some of those decisions are what you were pushing for. All right. So we'll talk. What I'm going to do, I'm going to share the segment of Roland Martin Unfiltered where we discuss this. That was the Tuesday, December 8th edition. And then the next day, Wednesday, December 9th, Roland interviewed NAACP President Derrick Johnson, okay, about the meeting. Derrick Johnson went further into detail and broke down some of the things they talked about. But Derrick Johnson is pushing for a national advisor on racial justice, who reports directly to President Joe Biden. He'll be sworn in January 20th, 2021, regardless of what Donald Trump is telling you. He'll be sworn in. And in the article from New York Times, and when Derrick Johnson spoke with Roland Martin, he said that Joe Biden appointed John Kerry to be the climate envoy dealing with climate change. And his argument is that you need the same one you need the same thing dealing with racial justice, same position dealing with racial justice. And that's their, and they report directly to the president, and that's their sole focus. Okay. So, as I said earlier in the week, they're pushing hard, exactly like they're supposed to be pushing. That's what you do. And even Biden agreed with it. Biden said, this is what he said in an interview with CNN. Biden said every advocacy group is trying to get more. They're pushing. And he said that's what they're supposed to do. Okay. So the question I ask is, how's it all right when everybody else does it, but it's a problem when we do it? Okay. How is it okay when everybody else does it? When Hispanics and women's groups and LGBTQ and everybody else does this, okay? Native Americans and all types of organizations, climate change organizations, when they do it, it's all right. Okay. When we do it, now all of a sudden it's a problem. All right, so we'll discuss that. And then we'll talk about remembering Redd Foxx. There were a number of birthdays. What I started doing, we post about a lot of birthdays that are taking place of celebrities, African-American celebrities. Try to lighten things up. There's so much going on, so much death with coronavirus, so much tragedy. So we try to lighten things up, but also we're dealing with history as well at the same time. Okay. So we're going to remember Redd Foxx. His birth name was John Elroy Sanford. Okay. We're going to deal with the character of Fred G. Sanford on Sanford and Son. And I have a very interesting excerpt from the Flip Wilson Show, 1974, with guest Redd Foxx. He did a stand-up act, and he entertained questions as well. Okay. And then lastly, I want to try to squeeze in this segment. So I posted this on my Facebook page, The African History Network, and my personal page, Michael Imhotep. So I posted this about last week. Okay. And DeAndre Whitfield was on the TV show Sister Circle Live. Okay. Sister Circle Live doesn't come on anymore. Okay. Sister Circle Live doesn't come on anymore. And they canceled the show, and we'll leave it at that. But there was a segment where, so DeAndre Whitfield, you remember Robert on the Cosby Show, right? Vanessa's first boyfriend. Okay, well, he deals a lot with relationships, and he wrote a book also. But there was a segment on Sister Circle Live where he talks about the difference between a grown man and a grown male, a grown man versus a grown male. He talked about the difference. Okay, and when he said this, the women, on the show, they almost fell out. I mean, he's telling the truth. I agree with him. He's telling the truth. So we're gonna talk some about that as well. Okay, we'll try to squeeze that segment in as well. Try to liven things up. Okay, we saw the pro Trump rally took place in Washington D.C. on Saturday. We'll talk about that Monday. Okay, these are a bunch of people, as I said before, these are a bunch of people who haven't figured out wrestling is not real. They think the election is being stolen. No, election is not being stolen. Donald Trump lost. Get over it. Okay. Donald Trump lost. Get over it. These are people, obviously, math wasn't your best subject in school. All right. So we'll deal with that on our Monday night show. Since I'm here 6 days a week, I try to lighten up some of these segments. All right. So we'll deal with that on Monday night show. How's everybody doing? Everybody watching on our social media platforms, share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Okay, we're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, as well on YouTube. All right, and we're also broadcasting on 9:10 AM Superstation WFDF's YouTube channel, Facebook fan page also. Okay, 9:10 AM Superstation WFDF. So follow them on Facebook as well. All right, now on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you've been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when you control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here on the African History Network show. We deal with current events and history and politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, relationships, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. We're going to talk a little bit about relationships tonight. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. Also visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. All right. And since we're here 6 days a week, as opposed to 1 day a week, we did Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. for 4 years in this time slot here on 9:10 AM on the Superstation WFDF in Detroit. But now we're on 6 days a week. So the donations, the purchasing the DVD lectures, things like that, that really helps out. That helps us to be to broadcast 6 days a week and keep doing the research, stay on the air, etc. All right. Okay. Calling numbers 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a quick question or comment. So Charley Pride passed away on Saturday, age 86. Country music legend Charley Pride. So he was the first major African-American country music legend. He was a country music Hall of Fame singer who rose from rural Mississippi to become the genre's first Black superstar. He died Saturday at age 86. The Kiss and Angel Good Morning star died in Dallas, Texas, due to complications from COVID-19, according to a news release from his publicist, Jeremy Westby. With a career spanning more than 5 decades, Charley Pride cemented a trailblazing legacy unlike any entertainer before him. And I first found out he passed away from Roland Martin. Roland posted about this on his Instagram page and his Facebook page, and I saw that and I shared it. And then the mainstream media, what I saw, the first article was from USA Today. Okay. Launching his career in the 1960s, in the height of the civil rights movement, Charley Pride became the first black man to outright conquer country music fame. The first black man to outright conquer country music fame. He overcame audiences unwilling to hear an African-American man cover Hank Williams and promoters equally skeptical at hosting his performances to once be the best-selling artist for RCA Records since Elvis Presley. Now, we know Elvis Presley was copying off of African-Americans. We just yesterday, December 12th, was the birth date, I think it was December 12th or December 11th, was the birth date of Big Mama Thornton. Big Mama Thornton was the one who originally recorded Hound Dog, okay, that Elvis Presley made famous, stole and made famous. You know Elvis Presley was doing black people's music. This is what a lot of them were doing. Earlier this week, we talked about Little Richard, okay? You had white artists putting covers out on Little Richard, like Pat Boone doing Tutti Frutti, okay? And cutting into Little Richard's money. Little Richard lost so much money because white people were doing his music, copying off of him. And Little Richard was Little Richard, he wasn't just the architect of rock and roll. Little Richard was the king of rock and roll. All right. But when you study the history of country music has its roots in African-American music. A lot of it's nothing but white people's blues. Okay. You listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. Let me connect to the radio station. Reconnect through Skype. Stand by, everybody. How's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. We're going to try to have some fun tonight. Stand by. All right, hey, Jalen, it's Michael calling back. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. All right, stand by. Everybody share this broadcast. African-American business owners, post the name of your business. Stand by. African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Email us customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Stand by. One commercial break.
Ebook available now on Amazon or get a hard copy at www.theesnutstrailmix.com. That's nuts with a Z.
Attention. In July 2018, Bayer announced that it will be halting its sales of Assure. The Assure birth control may break or migrate after insertion, puncturing the fallopian tube, resulting in corrective surgery to remove the device. Thousands of women have reported debilitating health problems to the FDA. In April 2018, the FDA restricted sales of Assure to protect women and require that patients receive risk information.
Please call 800-425-9539.
How's everybody doing?
Thrown 1,000 pitches teaching him to hit a home run. Spent countless Saturdays running routes.
All right, one commercial break.
Endless afternoons.
One commercial break. We'll be back in just a minute.
But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit? Teaching boys that all violence against women is wrong is one of the most important things a man can do. Learn how to start the conversation at teachearly.org. Brought to you by Futures Without Violence and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, Superstation Future Radio. Here, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 13th, 2020, and we're live. Pretty soon, we'll be saying Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And what people saying Happy Holidays right now anyway. Well, we'll be saying Harry Kwanzaa, Happy Kwanzaa, and then New Year's, and then Happy New Year's. So this year is going by quickly. All right, welcome back to the African History Network show. So right before the break, we were talking about the passing of Charley Pride, the first major African-American country and Western star. USA Today has a good article dealing with this. Country music legend Charley Pride dies of COVID-19 complications at 86. He passed away Saturday, December 12th, 2020. Now, with a career spanning more than 5 decades, Charley Pride cemented a trailblazing legacy unlike any entertainer before him, launching his career in the 1960s. In the height of the civil rights movement, Charley Pride became the first Black man to outright conquer country music fame. He overcame audiences unwilling to hear a Black man cover Hank Williams and promoters equally skeptical at hosting his performances to once be the best-selling artist for RCA Records since Elvis Presley. Charley Pride's seemingly endless accolades, including Country Music Association Entertainer of the Year in 1971, Male Vocalist of the Year in 1973 and 1974, and a 1993 invitation to join the Grand Ole Opry, a 3-time Grammy Award winner. The Recording Academy honored Charley Pride with a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017. Darius Rucker told of Hootie and the Blowfish fame, Darius Rucker told the Tennessean in November of 2020, quote, to be doing that at a time when nobody really wanted him here. It's crazy to look back now. That must have been so hard. I can deal with whatever comes my way because it can't be near what Charley went through. Now, Dolly Parton, Reba McEntire, and more honor country music trailblazer Charley Pride as well. Dolly Parton said, I'm so heartbroken. Now, his remarkable career was applauded by a live audience at last month's Country Music Awards, where Country Music Association Awards, CMA Awards, where he received the Willie Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award. He was introduced by one of the genre's modern Black stars, Jimmy Allen. Jimmy Allen said, quote, I might never have had a career in country music if it wasn't for a truly groundbreaking artist who took his best shot and made the best kind of history in our genre, Jimmy Allen told Charley Pride. Unlike nearly every other award show held this year, the Country Music Association's awards were produced with a live, socially distanced audience at Nashville's Music City Center. The Country Music Association issued a statement Saturday noting everyone affiliated, quote unquote, everyone affiliated with the award show, quote, followed strict testing protocols outlined by the city health department and unions, Quote, Charley was tested prior to traveling to Nashville. He was tested upon landing in Nashville and again on show day, with all tests coming back negative, end quote, the statement added. The statement went on to say, after returning to Texas following the CMA Awards, Charley again tested negative multiple times. All of us in the country music community are heartbroken by Charley's passing. Out of respect for his family during their grieving period, we will not be commenting on this further, end quote. Now, when we look at Charley Parker's pride, when we look at Charley Pride's upbringing in Mississippi, he was born Charley Frank Pride. He was born to Father Mac Pride and mother Tessie B. Stewart Pride on March 18th, 1934 in Sledge, Mississippi. He was one of 11 children. He worked as a kid picking cotton for his father, who was a local sharecropper, saving $10 to buy his first guitar with an assist from his mother out of a Sears Roebuck catalog. Do people still know what Sears and Roebuck is today? It was originally called Sears and Roebuck. Okay, now it's just called Sears, and they filed bankruptcy, I think, twice. But then they had the whole commercials, the softer side of Sears, trying to get people to try to say, hey, we're not just washing machines and vacuum cleaners anymore. So he bought a $10 guitar from a Sears and Roebuck catalog. Do they even have Sears catalogs anymore? It's all online. They don't. You had to go to a museum to see a Sears catalog. So Charley Pride learned songs from formative opera singers, often hearing the Louvin brothers on the famed WSM broadcast, which at 50,000 watts traveled 275 miles southwest to Charley Pride's corner of rural Mississippi, and catching radio star Smiling Eddie Hill at makeshift concerts in town. Charley Pride said, "I lived only 54 miles from Memphis, Tennessee. They'd come down and put a flatbed truck up." Now, Charley Pride later told, just a second, Charley Pride later said, "I wanted to get up there so bad," he said. "You should have said something. We would have probably got you up there. That wasn't the thing to do back in those days. Segregation, you know." But music only played a B-side in Charley Pride's burgeoning passions. His first big hit came on the baseball diamond. In the 1950s, not a decade after Jackie Robinson smashed segregation barriers for African-American athletes in the major leagues, Charley Pride would pursue his own Major League Baseball career. He bounced between Negro leagues and major league farm systems, pitching for teams in Wisconsin, Kentucky, Alabama, Idaho, Texas, and perhaps most notably, the Memphis Red Sox. He earned a spot in 1956 on the Negro American League All-Star team, only to be drafted later that year into the U.S. military. He served in the U.S. military till 1958. Charley Pride said, "I was gonna go to the major leagues and break all the records there and set new ones." He said, adding a laugh, "By the time I was 35 or 36, then I was gonna go sing. That was my plan." That's what my plan was, I should say. So when we look at Charley Pride's Nashville career in the early 1960s, Charley Pride's major league opportunities dwindled dealing with Major League Baseball, but his voice grew. He lived in Montana at the time, where he played semi-pro baseball, worked at a smelting factory, and occasionally sang tunes in honky-tonk bars. At a Montana gig in 1962, touring country singers Redd Foxx and Redd Foxx invited Charley Pride to sing two songs on stage, "Lovesick Blues" and "Heartaches by the Number." Redd Foxx encouraged Charley Pride to visit Cedarwood Publishing in Nashville, Tennessee, and in 1963, he obliged. Charley Pride first took to Music City on his way home from a New York Mets tryout in Clearwater, Florida. At Cedarwood, Charley Pride connected with his would-be manager, Jack D. Johnson, and 2 years later landed a deal at RCA Records with the help of Chet Atkins and producer Cowboy Jack Clement. In the mid-1960s, as civil rights activists marched for equality in the South, the label hesitated at promoting an African-American in country music. Why is that? Where do you think country music comes from? That's white people's blues. Despite being arguably formed by intertwining black and white Southern cultures in the early 20th century, the once called hillbilly format, or hillbilly music, was released in the 1920s as a segregated marketing tactic for white record buyers. African-American consumers were marketed towards race records. And they had hillbilly music for white people. So you had the once called hillbilly music that was dominated for decades by white artists and gatekeepers. So the label pushed Charley Pride's early singles, such as The Snakes Crawl at Night. Is that similar to The Freaks Come Out at Night? I'm just curious. I ain't never heard Snakes Crawl at Night, but they could remix that and, have it to the tune of The Freaks Come Out at Night and remix that and have Charley Pride with Houdini, okay, this is just a thought. Okay. But anyway, Some of y'all may know some snakes that crawl at night, but you may be sleeping with one of them, but who knows? But that's a whole nother show. Maybe the last segment when we deal with grown men versus grown males. But anyway, so the label pushed Charley Pride's early singles, such as The Snakes Crawl at Night and Before I Met You, without distributing his picture. You're going to see this in the 1960s and even in the 50s. See, I remember when I was a kid, I'll go to my grandparents' house. In the basement, they had all of these records, all these 33 and the thirds and some 45s. Okay. And on the record covers, they had Motown artists. They had all these African-American artists on the record covers, right? They would have some flowers, have some plants, have some cars, things like this. They had record covers, but didn't have the black artists on the record cover. This was commonplace in like the late 50s, 1960s, because a lot of those records you couldn't sell with black people's faces on them. You had to put a plant, you had to put a car, you had to have a beach or something like that, but you couldn't have black faces on them to sell the records. Then in a lot of the southern states, on a lot of southern radio stations, what was called race music, okay, oftentimes called race music, black people's music, you couldn't get it played on those radio stations. So then you're going to have white artists, like a lot of those southern radio stations would not play Little Richard. Okay. So you have Pat Boone. They put out what were called cover records. The white artists will put out cover records of African-American artists and get them played on the southern radio stations and make a whole lot of money for the white artists. A lot of African-American artists lost money because they couldn't get their records played. A lot of times they couldn't perform in those cities and southern states, things like this, due to segregation. So that in the movie, two movies that show this that come to mind. One, Why Do Fools Fall in Love, starring Lorenz Tate as Frankie Lyman. Okay. In one of the court scenes where Little Richard is portraying himself, because Little Richard and Frankie Lyman were good friends. Little Richard is on the witness stand and he's talking about how he was beat out of money and how white artists put out cover records on him so he couldn't make money. Okay. Another movie that depicts this, if I remember correctly, is the movie Dreamgirls with Jamie Foxx and Beyonce. And there's a scene in there where some white artists record one of the black artist songs, and it's a slower tempo, and they're performing on a show, something like American Bandstand, and people, and it's horrible, but this was commonplace. Okay. All right. So RCA could keep Charley Pride's face off a record, but promoters could not keep him from audiences who paid tickets to hear his voice. Charley Pride recalled being introduced to rousing applause early in his career, only to be greeted to silence as he took to the stage. Rousing applause early in his career, only to be greeted to silence as he took to the stage. He makes a sound similar to a deflating balloon when recalling those first gigs. Charley Pride said they were quiet as a pin. They thought maybe it was a joke. Now, what's interesting is that, so Tom Joyner, I've been to the Tom Joyner morning show, to the Sky shows they used to have, right? And I remember I was a big fan of Tom Joyner. Years ago, I worked at another radio station, sold radio ads for the Tom Joyner morning show about 20 years ago. I remember Sybil Wilkes talking about how when people would come see Tina Marie perform, you had some African Americans didn't know Tina Marie was white. Because if you listen to Tina Marie, you think that's a sister. Tina Marie didn't sound like a white woman performing. And especially you didn't have a lot of white women playing guitar either. You listen to Tina Marie, Lover Boy, Portuguese Love, things like this. You think that's a sister. But she said they would have people come to the Sky show to see Tina Marie perform, and they did not know Tina Marie was white. Okay. And then you had people here in 1960s. They may hear Charley Pride on the radio, but they go see him perform. And it's like, is this his butler? We don't bring out Charley Pride. So during the 1966 show at Olympia Stadium in Detroit, Olympia Stadium in Detroit, Charley Pride faced the biggest gig of his career to that point. He'd been walking out to a few hundred deflated balloons each night. This night, he'd be walking out to thousands. Well, yeah, 1966, man, you know. That was a year before the rebellion here in Detroit. Detroit was racist as hell. So I'm not surprised. You remember Malcolm X said Detroit's in Michigan, right? Remember Malcolm X talked about how anytime you south of the Canadian border, you're in the South, right? So that doesn't surprise me. So, quote, here's what Jack and I came up with. Charley Pride said, ladies and gentlemen, I realize it's a little unique with me coming out on stage wearing this permanent tan. I got 3 singles. I only have 10 minutes. I get through with those. I'll maybe do a Hank Williams song, but I ain't got time to talk about pigmentation. He said, and I hit it. All right. So by 1967, Charley Pride sang his way to the top 10 of the country charts with Just Between You and Me. And he didn't stop there. From the down home honesty on All I Have to Offer You Is Me to Wanderlust Heartbreak on his song Is Anybody Going to San Antone. His rich baritone voice, welcomed heartfelt storytelling, propelled him to the top of the country charts throughout the 1970s and 1980s. He charted 29 number one songs, reaching a pinnacle of commercial country music success achieved by few artists before him. He had become the best-selling RCA artist since Elvis Presley. To me, he had more talent than Elvis Presley. That was, maybe one of this week we'll play that clip of Ray Charles talking about Elvis Presley, how Elvis Presley was copying black people. And Ray Charles could see Elvis, Elvis was copying black people, right? So, because you look at Elvis dance. Elvis acted like he had ants in his pants or something like that. Acted like he had to go to the bathroom. Okay, he danced like he had incontinence. He's like, it's like, you're dancing. Okay, that's what you're doing. Okay. Now, just as a country music singer, Charley Pride is one of the all-time greats, Darius Rucker said, of Hootie and the Blowfish fame. He's a superstar. Everybody knows he's an icon. And no song may be associated with Charley Pride's legacy more than the hit Kissin' Angel Good Morning, which spent 5 weeks at number 1 on the country charts and crossed into pop success. Charley Pride said, I had no idea it would do what it did. But didn't Ray Charles say, we're going to make it do what it do? That's what Charley Pride did. He made it do what it do. He said, I had no idea. He said, I had no idea it would do what it did. I just couldn't wait to get into the studio to get that baby done. It's been my biggest so far. Now, Charley Pride credits his success to singing that took him from the baseball fields to the Grand Ole Opry stage. He said, Chet Atkins, he told Jack Clement he never heard a voice. Just cut through. When I started singing like that, I guess it's the richness of the voice. Now, after earning Entertainer of the Year in 1971, Charley Pride won the Country Music Association Awards Male Vocalist of the Year in 1973 and 1974. He was the first artist to earn back-to-back victories in the competitive category. The first artist, not the first African-American artist, but the first artist to win back-to-back victories in the CMA Awards Male Vocalist of the Year category. Charley Pride joined the Grand Ole Opry in 1993 and in the year 2000 entered the Country Music Hall of Fame. At his peak, Some referred to Charley Pride as the Jackie Robinson of country music, but the path for African-American country singers after Charley Pride would not be followed as quickly as those in the major leagues, as those in Major League Baseball. It took country gatekeepers until the year 2008 to welcome another African-American artist, Darius Rucker, to top the radio charts. Pleas for diversity on the radio charts and in positions of power in country music continue to this day. So we wanted to say rest in peace to Charley Pride, the first major African-American country music artist, first major African-American country music superstar. And once again, calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. There was a article. So back in, there was a article dealing with, and we may have to deal with this on a Monday night show. There was an article dealing with, I saw, this was a couple years ago. Oh, when Beyonce performed at the Country Music Awards. And there was an article dealing with the origins of country music and country music African-American roots. Let me see if I can pull that up here. That's another segment. We may talk about that because I dealt with this when it came out. And there was an article that dealt with the black roots of country music. That's something else that was stolen from us. Okay. Yeah, I think it's this article right here. Washington Post, think Beyonce doesn't belong at the CMAs, then you don't know country. Think Beyonce doesn't belong at the CMAs, then you don't know country. This is from November 3rd, 2016. Okay. Because I read this article. I read like so many articles every day. I monitor about 35 different news sources daily. Okay. Because I just got an update from one of these news sources, Smart News. I get updates all throughout the day. So when I used to do radio, like the 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. time slot, nationally syndicated radio, and I would guest host for Roland Martin, I would get like breaking news updates, like while we're live on the air, and go right to it. So this was November 3rd, 2016. Written by Travis M. Andrews. We'll go to the phone lines in just a minute. 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the calling number. Wednesday night, Nashville, fittingly known as Music City, held its annual blowout celebration of its most popular export. As it was the 50th anniversary of the Country Music Awards, it was a special evening for the city. The cast of characters was about the same as always. Brad Paisley and Carrie Underwood and George Strait and Garth Brooks and Martina McBride, all white, and others took the stage while Stetson-clad fans watched from the stands of the Bridgestone Arena, which sits on the edge of the city's neon sign and a honky-tonk lined Lower Broadway entertainment district. But one name stood out, playing alongside the Dixie Chicks, who are currently headlining their first American tour in 10 years, was the one and only Beyonce. Beyonce performed Daddy Lessons, her most country-leaning song. It begins with a brass band tooting away, the kind you might find at a New Orleans second line, before slipping into a more countrypolitan sing-along a la Dolly Parton. It even contains a hip-hop element called chopped and screwed, which refers to cutting a song into discordant parts, popularized by DJ Screw in Beyonce's hometown of Houston, Texas. All to say, the song seems genreless, which is arguably a current trend in country music. It's a fitting set of influences for Beyonce, who was born in Houston, Texas, and owns a home with her husband Jay-Z in New Orleans. She might not be a country musician, but the song certainly seemed to fit into the ever-expanding definition of country music. Not everyone saw it that way, of course, and many sounded off on Twitter that they were expecting a more traditional lineup. Others, though, went straight to the deep well of racism that Twitter seems to serve up by the bucketful. I want to follow Donald Trump on Twitter also. In a string of tweets, many claim Beyonce's blackness should have been cause for her to be barred from playing at the Country Music Awards, which a quick glance around will tell you is overwhelmingly white. Many of these tweets followed the incredibly obvious quote, does this mean insert white country star can play at insert most black award shows? Okay. Now you have just so people know, like, you have white artists that perform at African American music shows, that perform at, they may perform at BET Awards, or you have white artists who get nominated for awards, BET Awards, I think maybe even the Soul Train Awards, things like this. Okay, so we ain't the ones that got a history of discriminating like that. I mean, let's just be honest. You know, we ain't the ones that got a history of discriminating like this, like that. One, two, most of these music genres and music forms were black in their origin in the first place. Now, the irony of these racist tweets, of course, is that like most all popular music today, at least part of country music is rooted in black culture. Well, most of these people don't know this. They out here fighting over Confederate monuments that are honoring traitors to the Union who committed treason against the Union based upon Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. They're out here trying to preserve monuments to traitors to the Union who wanted to preserve slavery. So a lot of them don't understand history. One particularly astute Twitter user noted as much. Now, this is Mickey Kendall on Twitter, who said back in November 2nd, 2016, who said Beyonce came to remind country where it got its sound. Half this crowd looks like they weren't ready to like it or to dance. So the article goes on to say, let us not forget that one of Nashville's most famous historical spaces was Printer's Alley, home to Jimmy Hyde's Carousel Club, where country artists and bookers would come to see and often play jazz. Southern musicians would kick it at after hours places, playing jazz classics in long jam sessions. Among them, the likes of Chet Atkins, who we just talked about, dealing with Charley Pride, Chet Atkins and Boots Randolph, according to Tony Artemis's book, Rhythm Makers, the drumming legends of Nashville in their own words. The book Rhythm Makers, the drumming legends of Nashville in their own words. Let us not forget either that Willie Nelson once said that Ray Charles, quote, did more for country music than any other living human being. This is Willie Nelson. Mr. You know, Willie has an affinity for marijuana. Willie Nelson once said that Ray Charles, quote, did more for country music than any other living human being, end quote, in reference to Ray Charles' 1962 hit album, Modern Sounds in Country and Western Music. It was the first country record to sell more than 1 million copies. This is Ray Charles. Nor should we forget DeFord Bailey, D-E-F-O-R-D, an African-American man born in 1899 who was a master of the harmonica. He became one of the genre's most popular musicians and helped inspire the name Grand Ole Opry. He helped inspire the name Grand Ole Opry, O-P-R-Y, not to be confused with O-P-P, but that was probably going on back then too, for which he often played. The nickname for his style of fluid music that mimicked dance more than classic scores was Grand Ole Opry. That was the name of his fluid style of music, Grand Ole Opry. This is where they get the name from. Their whole roots are African. Their whole roots are black. But when we look at the banjo, okay? When we look at the banjo, one of the genre's most vital and enduring instruments traces its roots back to the akonting, A-K-O-N-T-I-N-G, which was a stringed instrument from West Africa. It was a 3-string West African instrument that musicologists believe was a precursor to the banjo as reported by National Public Radio. Okay, now we're coming up on a break. How much time before the break, Jalen? In the 3 minutes. All right, my man. Say that again, Jalen. We'll make sure everybody hear you. How much time before the break?
3 minutes.
Okay, now next time we're gonna do 6 minutes. Michael Imhotep on. We're gonna do that too. But anyway, in the 6-part series with Samuel L. Jackson called Enslaved. Okay, I watched it and we talked about it here on this show, and I did Facebook post about it. There was one segment that dealt with the history of the banjo and traces the banjo, which is popular in country music, back to West Africa. And they traced it back to the West African 3-string instrument called the akonting, Akonting. And National Public Radio has an article about this as well. And as David Whiteis, Whiteis, the author of Chicago Blues, wrote for the Chicago Reader, much of the guitar styles seen in country music come from Black influences. David Whiteis, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, in Chicago Blues said, the Black plantation 20s led a dual life. He played blues and contemporary dance numbers for Black house parties and juke joints, but was also often called upon to perform at white functions. For these, he'd modify his repertoire considerably to include pop songs, vaudeville style novelty numbers, and the folk-based ballads and dance tunes that eventually gave birth to bluegrass music and Western swing music, important precursors to modern country and Western music. We're going to continue this on the other side of the break. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. If you like this type of information, also, you can donate to the African History Network. $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. See, we have to understand our history. Our history is all through all these music genres, including country music. All right, we're going to deal with Redd Foxx. We're going to talk about, I want to do a different show tonight. I don't want to do all this Trump stuff, even though it's important, but I have too much information. I don't want to do all this Trump stuff. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcasting and social media platforms. We got Toya, we got Matthew. How's everybody doing? And we got to deal with this segment. We got to squeeze this segment in. Also, grown man versus a grown male. Okay. We got callers. Stand by, everybody. We'll be back from break in 2 minutes, I think. Okay. Just a second. Be right back.
Prescription drugs, dental, hearing, vision, and more. In many areas, plans with benefits are available with $0 copays for many services, $0 monthly premiums, or $0 deductibles. That's hospital, medical, prescription drug, dental coverage, and more included in one plan with premiums that may be as low as...
All right, we're back.
In many areas, dental coverage and more included in one plan.
Stand by. All right, let's see who we have here. Okay, we got Tracy, Toya, Matthew, Althea, Lawrence, Kim. Hey, Kim, how you doing? Kim just had a birthday. Didn't you just have a birthday, Kim? Sherwin, Sharon. Stand by. We'll be back from break in just a minute here. All right, stand by.
Computer. I want to sleep on a full day. I want to be a bike that races around the country. I want to be a bench on a forest trail. When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
God damn, how many commercials they had? All right, stand by. Back from break in just a minute here. An extended commercial break, it looks like. Stand by.
ARP and the Ad Council.
WFDF Farmington Hills, Detroit, 910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation of Future Radio. Hey, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 13th, 2020, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well. We're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP. We're also broadcasting on 910 AM Superstation's Facebook page as well, 910 AM Superstation on Facebook. So check us out there as well and follow 910 AM on Facebook also. Right before the break, we were talking about the legacy of Charley Pride, the first African-American, the first major African-American country western star. And we were talking about some of the African-American roots and African roots of country music, because that's something else that was stolen from us. All right. And we were dealing with some of the origins of the banjo, which has a West African root. Okay. The banjo that's popular in country music. Okay. We're going to the phone lines in just a minute here. I'm going to go back to there's an article from the Washington Post from 2016 when Beyonce performed at the Country Music Awards, and Beyonce got backlash for performing at the Country Music Awards, and people were saying, oh, she doesn't belong there. And obviously you don't know the history of country music, and you don't understand the contribution, the African influences on country music. So in the book Chicago Blues by David Whiteis, Whiteis, he wrote for the Chicago Reader that much of the guitar styles seen in country music come from Black influences. Much of the guitar styles seen in country music come from Black influences. Okay. And he talked about how African-American plantation musicians of the 1920s led a dual life, and they played blues and contemporary dance music at African-American house parties and juke joints. But when they went to perform for white people, they changed up their repertoire and included pop songs and vaudeville style novelty numbers and the folk-based ballads and dance tunes that eventually gave birth to bluegrass music and Western swing, and important precursors to modern country and Western music. As the recording industry developed, what had been a relatively free exchange of musical ideas became more of a one-way street. What happens when you go down the wrong way on the one-way street? You get ran off the road. See, they tried to run Charley Pride off the road. He was going down the wrong way with one-way street. Okay. As the recording industry developed, what had been a relatively free exchange of musical ideas between African Americans and whites, Europeans, and Europeans and African Americans, it became more of a one-way street. Okay. Recorded influences were generally passed from black to white musicians. Recorded influences were generally passed from African American to white musicians to the latter's artistic and financial benefit. So they're benefiting off of our musical genius to their economic benefit and our economic deficit. It's a one-way street. Now, bluegrass mandolin pioneer Bill Monroe has openly acknowledged his musical debt to an African-American Kentucky guitarist and fiddle player named Arnold Schultz, Schultz, who apparently traveled freely in both African-American and white musical circles before his death in 1931. The Western swing standard song Steel Guitar Rag, popularized by Bob Wills, Wills, and his Texas Playboys, was originally recorded as Guitar Rag by another African-American Kentuckian guitarist named Sylvester Weaver in 1920. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to line 1. We have Sally, line 1. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from, Sally.
Thank you. Calling from Detroit. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you from Detroit. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, my mother she just loved Charley Pride, and she had all of his records.
All of his records?
You know, when the records that Charley Pride made up?
Right. She had all of Charley Pride's records, yes.
That he made?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then she purchased them.
Okay.
She purchased not all of them, but everything that he recorded.
Right.
My mother collected.
Okay. Excellent.
Did you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Excellent.
Oh, okay. You can. Okay. And then when you mentioned some of the other ones, have you ever heard of this song called Irene, written by Cutie Ledbetter?
I've heard of Ledbetter. What's the name of the song?
Leadbelly.
I've heard of Leadbelly. Now, what's the name of the song?
It's much older than you. It's called Irene. Irene, good night, and that one.
Irene?
And, he also wrote Skip to My Lou and Little Sally Walker and many others. They did steal a lot of our very talented singers. But I'm sure enjoying your program. It's very informative. And I want to say thank you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Thanks for listening. All right, keep listening. And we're on Monday through Fridays, also 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. Okay. All right. Let's go.
Okay. I'm glad you told me.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Let's go to Ruth Ann, line 2. Ruth Ann, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from, Ruth Ann.
I'm calling from Ypsilanti.
Okay. Ypsilanti, Michigan.
And I've never heard your program. What'd you say?
I say Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Right. I've never heard your program to the night, but like I second the lady. It's a very enjoyable program. I'm going to be listening to more of you.
Okay, thanks. Now you know I've been in this. You know I've been in this time slot for 4 years, right? I'm just asking.
I didn't know. This is the first time I've even heard your station, but I'm going to listen more.
All right.
Because you play cool stuff and you say some neat stuff I never knew about Charley Pride.
Okay.
I only heard the one song, Kiss an Angel Good Morning, and
right.
I didn't know he made all them other ones. But
right.
I'm sure we'll miss them, and I'll be glad to go to heaven to hear them again.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully it won't be too soon. Hopefully you'll be with us for a little while longer. Okay. All right.
Keep up the good work.
Okay. You don't have to go to heaven. Listen to Charley Pride. You know, there's YouTube. You don't.
I didn't know you could hear him on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Keep listening, Ruth Ann. Thanks for calling.
Keep up the good work.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Let's go to Dave, line 3. Dave, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
All right, this is Dave from Newport News.
Newport News, okay.
Area.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm all right. Just tired. I'm all right. It's been a busy week, man.
Yeah, I know it has. Thanks for doing the Charley Pride thing, man. A lot of people kind of slept on Charley Pride.
Yeah,
he was a special guy. He actually owned a bank, I believe. He actually bought a bank at one time. If I'm not mistaken, he actually owned a bank somewhere in Texas.
Okay, I have to research that.
Yeah, but anyway, I think he's kept a lot of his money. He didn't get ripped off like a lot of black artists did in soul music and stuff like that. But anyway, I want to talk about the Joe Biden thing and the black leadership.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mike, I think we've got a little cowardice going on amongst our leadership.
Cowardice where?
I think we're scared to ask for certain. Yeah, I think we're scared to ask for certain things.
Certain things like what?
You know, I'll give you an example. It's a crime. It is literally a crime for George Zimmerman to be walking around free. You just can't walk up to somebody and start a fight and kill them. I don't care who you are.
He was acquitted in he was acquitted in court in the state of Florida.
In court in the state of Florida. Why come the Attorney General of the United States didn't bring civil rights violation charges against him?
Because proving civil rights violations is a very high standard. You have to prove that the person willfully intended to deprive somebody of their civil rights. That's a high bar to meet.
Yeah, that's not a high bar.
It is a high bar to meet. I've talked to attorneys. See, I've interviewed attorneys on this who are former prosecutors. Who are former prosecutors. Who are former prosecutors. Who are former federal prosecutors, like Laura Coates. That's to prove. So when you deal with federal charges like that, you're dealing with violation of civil rights. You have to prove that the person willfully intended to deprive somebody of their civil rights. Not that they actually did deprive them of their civil rights. You have to prove that you have to prove willful intent. You have to prove that they willfully intended to do it. Not that they actually did it. Hold on, slow down. That's a high bar to reach. Okay, so go ahead.
Mike, without internet, without cable, without fax machines, they prosecuted the killers of Swerna Goodman and Cheney for civil rights violation in the 60s.
I'm familiar with that. Yeah, but when they prosecuted,
there's no way you could have. You had the man you had the 911 operator saying, "Don't follow the kid, to stand back," and they got him on tape saying that he was stalking the kid, going to confront the kid.
Once again, what's it? That's not all the evidence you need. Once again, you have to prove willful intent. Okay, but that's federal charge. We'll go to your second point.
Okay, well, my second point was Officer Pantaleo. Now, what excuse you gonna give now? He killed a man on videotape, choked a man to death on videotape. How much more evidence do you need than that?
Actually, when you research that case, it was Attorney William Barr that decided not to file charges. It was Attorney General. Slow down. We ain't gonna both talk at the same time. It was Attorney General William Barr who decided not to file charges. There were two prosecutors. There was prosecutors in one federal office who said don't file charges. There was prosecutors, it was I think two, in another federal office that said file charges. Attorney General William Barr followed the guidance of the ones who said don't file charges and decided not to file charges against Pantaleo.
And what's the excuse for the Attorney General of the United States of America, Eric Holder, not filing charges?
With Eric Holder, with that one, if I remember correctly, they were waiting on they were waiting on New York. It took in New York. It took 5 years for Pantaleo to be fired. Now, personally, with me, he should have been fired long before that. But he should be on death row. Well, hold on. There's a process. It took 5 years for him to be fired. Now, he should have been prosecuted because he should have been slow down. He should have been prosecuted. They had a grand jury for Pantaleo. The grand jury said he didn't do anything wrong. I disagree with that. But it took 5 years for Pantaleo to be fired. That was after the grand jury decided not to indict him. Okay. Now I'm not saying slow down. I'm not saying the grand jury was right. I'm telling you what happened. But when it came down to it, Attorney General William Barr decided not to file federal charges. It would be federal civil rights charges. Attorney General William Barr decided. It didn't happen on his watch. No. The Attorney General William Barr made the decision. Attorney General William Barr made the decision not to file federal civil rights charges against Pantaleo. I disagree. Hold on, slow down. We ain't gonna both talk at the same time. I disagree with that. They should have filed federal civil rights charges, but at the same time, he should have been indicted in the New York area. I forgot exactly which city it was, Staten Island, whatever. He should have been indicted. He should have been indicted there also. Now, the federal civil rights charges, the bar needs to be lowered on what's needed to get a conviction on federal civil rights charges. The bar needs to be lowered. That comes from that comes from hold on. So Dave. That bar is set not by the Department of Justice, it's set by Congress. Congress needs to pass a law to lower the standards to get a conviction. They need to lower the standards that needs to be met to get a conviction on federal civil rights charges. That comes from Congress. That doesn't come from the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice follows the law, but the standard that standard that has to be met, that standard needs to be lowered. That comes from the legislative branch of federal government. That comes from the U.S. House of Representatives and U.S. Senate. Go to your last point because I got to get these other calls.
So you're saying if I was an officer and I choked a white woman to death on film, they couldn't have enough evidence to prosecute me, a black man?
I didn't say there wasn't enough evidence. I'm telling you what happened. I didn't say there wasn't enough evidence. I'm telling you what happened. But what I am saying is that when it comes to you, but see, federal charges are different than state charges. Federal charges don't charge somebody with murder. Federal charges can only charge them with violating someone's civil rights. That's a different standard. That's a much higher. Hold on, Dave. We're not gonna both talk at the same time. That's a much higher standard. What I'm saying is that for federal civil rights charges, the standard has to be lowered to be met so you can successfully prosecute more of these cases. But the standard is not set by the Department of Justice. The standard is set by the legislative branch of government, Congress. Congress, the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate have to pass a law to lower the standard that has to be met to get convictions on federal civil rights charges. All right. Thanks for calling, Dave. Call back tomorrow night. We got to get these other calls. Okay, let's go to Chago line. Oh, I'm sorry, Carl. We got Carl line 4. Carl. How are you? Carl line. This is Carl line 4. Who is this? Chago. Which one is this?
Oh, this is Carl.
Yeah. Okay. This is Carl.
It's Carl.
Okay. Carl. Yeah. Go ahead. Carl line 4. Hey, Carl. Welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from. You're on the air. Who we have here? Who do we have? Okay, get them straight. Let's go to this. Let's go to this next story. Get them straight, Jalen. Let's go to this next story. Okay, so Tuesday, December 8th. I was on the Tuesday, December 8th edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered. We discussed the civil rights meeting with Joe Biden and pushing for racial justice. There was a number of different things they talked about, but one of the things that came out of that meeting is pushing for racial justice. New York Times has an article: in a meeting with Biden, the NAACP pushes for civil rights envoy position in the White House. Civil rights in the meeting with Biden, the NAACP pushes for civil rights envoy position in the White House. There was, let's see, we're going to go to clip one, Jalen, from Roland Martin Unfiltered. So Derek Johnson, president of the NAACP, pressed President-elect Joe Biden on Tuesday to create a civil rights envoy position in the West Wing that will report directly to the president. Quote, Derek Johnson said he appointed John Kerry to be the climate envoy, reporting directly to him. Mr. Johnson said in the interview before a meeting with Mr. Biden in Wilmington, Delaware, that included other prominent civil rights leaders like Reverend Al Sharpton. He said, "We believe a national advisor on racial justice should be something equivalent. We believe a national advisor on racial justice should be something equivalent." I know we're coming up on a break, Jalen. Let's take this break. We'll go to that clip on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation Future Radio. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. We'll be back in a couple minutes here. Stand by, everybody. We'll be back. Should be back in 2 minutes from this break. How's everybody doing? Toya, Aset, how you doing, Aset? 90, Keith, Sharon. Okay, stand by, everybody. All right, we got to get these other calls. Okay, 90, Toya, how's everybody doing? All right. We'll be back from break in 1 minute. Okay, we'll go to this clip here. Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM, the Superstation, the Future Radio. Yeah, I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Sunday, December 13th, 2020. And we are live. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600. It's a calling number if you have a quick question or comment. All right. So Tuesday, December 8th, you had legacy civil rights organizations meeting with Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris. I talked about this on our Tuesday, December 8th show. I was also on Roland Martin Unfiltered Tuesday, December 8th, and we discussed this. Let's go to this clip.
Georgia, all eyes on the nation are on that particular state, and folks, already Republicans are playing shenanigans when it comes to voting. Cobb County has announced that they will eliminate over half of the county's early voting locations. Being that many of these locations are in Black and Latino communities, the move will disproportionately affect people of color. Several groups, including the NAACP and the Southern Poverty Law Center, Black Voters Matter, and the ACLU of Georgia, sent a letter to the Cobb County Board of Commissioners and Cobb County Board of Elections and Registration, to express their concerns. The letter stressed the importance of early voting accessibility, stating that advanced voting opportunities are vital to ensuring voters can safely, securely, and freely participate in our democracy. The COVID-19 pandemic, which is ravaging the nation, has had extremely harsh effects in communities of color, especially African Americans. And so what they said is that, again, they say it is an untenable option for many voters. Now, activists are hoping Cobb County election officials are going to reverse their decision. Cobb made a decision, they said, because due to the drawn-out proceedings of the November 30 election, because of also the holidays, they don't have the additional personnel needed to have those locations open. But there was a significant turnaround in Cobb County this year going for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. Cobb County also is the third most populous county. Listen to me clearly. The third most populous county in the state. And so voting rights advocates say this is an attempt to improve the chances of Kelly Loeffler, as well as David Perdue, in their battle against John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. Ain't that grand? Folks, do we have our guest ready? Let me know, please, to talk about this here. This is a huge deal. I do want to bring in my panel as well. Michael Imhotep hosts the African History Network show. Candace Kelly, legal analyst, and Rena Shaw, the Lincoln Project Women's Coalition. We're going to talk to, in a second, to the spokesman for the Warnock campaign about this very issue. I want to go to you first, Michael, and that is this here. Again, the reason we have problems is because of this goes back to Shelby v. Holder decision. The U.S. Supreme Court determined that it was unconstitutional, the whole issue of preclearance. All right, gutting that particular section. Republicans have refused to fix that. As a result, since that decision, Republican-led states have been rushing to put in voter suppression. If Shelby v. Holder had not been ruled, if the Voting Rights Act was still intact, then they would have had to get permission from the Department of Justice to make one of these moves. This is one of those lasting impacts of that Supreme Court decision.
Absolutely, Roland, and thanks once again for having me on. So Shelby County versus Holder is extremely important 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case. And when I speak across the country prior to COVID, I would ask many African Americans about that court case, U.S. Supreme Court case, and they didn't know about it. You got to go back to 2012 presidential election. That preceded 2013, and there was a record number of the turnout percentage-wise of African Americans voting in that 2012 presidential election that President Obama was on the ballot was a record number. 66.6% of African Americans registered to vote voted. And based upon my research, that was the first time the percentage of African Americans voting was higher than the percentage of white people voting. Shelby County versus Holder was a backlash to that. And what happens is, Roland, is that because many of our people don't understand history, we don't understand these cycles of backlash that take place. Okay, whether we talk about the end of Reconstruction, whether we talk about the end of the Second Reconstruction, and Richard Nixon being elected in 1968, running on the platform of law and order, which is a backlash to the Black Power movement, the Civil Rights movement, all of that. So right after Shelby County versus Holder, you had all these new states that started coming out with new voter ID laws. And then this impacted the 2016 presidential campaign, where there were 868 fewer polling places. We're not, a lot of people, you connect the dots, but a lot of our people don't know that these dots exist to connect them. Because of Shelby County versus Holder, U.S. Supreme Court case 2013, and you had these Republican-led states that started shutting down these polling places because they didn't have to get clearance from a federal judge. Ari Berman, who wrote the article that you are going to talk about from Mother Jones, Ari Berman wrote a series of articles for The Nation during the 2016 presidential election dealing with this, and he has one that talks about how there were 868 fewer polling places. Today is somewhere around 1,600, 1,700 fewer polling places. So we have to understand how all these dots are connected. And lastly, if the African-American vote did not matter, we have to ask ourselves, why do people work so hard to suppress our vote? Why are they going to the U.S. Supreme Court? Why are they shutting down all these polling places? many of them in African American and Hispanic, largely populated communities. So we have to understand this history and understand anytime you have periods of time of perceived advances by African Americans, there's always a white backlash. Yeah, you got to understand that history to be able to defend and block against that backlash.
Candace, again, Cobb County says we don't.
Pause it right there, Jalen. Pause right there, Jalen. Okay, that was from the Tuesday, December 8th, 2020 edition of Roland Martin Unfiltered. You can watch it on Roland's YouTube channel, Roland Martin on YouTube. We talked about Cobb County slashes early voting sites. Allsoft speaks Biden COVID. They're talking about Biden and COVID, all that stuff. So check that out on YouTube. We'll post a link here on the thread of the broadcast also for the full show. I talked about this also on our Tuesday night show, the meeting that they had, and I went in depth into it. So all these shows are archived on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, and our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network on Facebook. That was the December 8th edition of the African History Network show. We rebroadcast these shows throughout the day. These shows and various presentations I've done, we broadcast these throughout the day on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep. Okay. Now, we're going to go to this other clip here in just a second, because the next day, Wednesday, December 9th, Roland interviewed President Derek Johnson. Derek Johnson is the president of the NAACP. He was in that meeting on Tuesday with Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris, and he talked about some of the things they talked about. We'll go to that in just a second. But when we look at this article here from the New York Times, in a meeting with Biden, the NAACP pushes for a civil rights envoy position in the White House. That's just one of the things they were talking about. Okay. Reverend Al Sharpton talked about the meeting also on his radio show, Keeping It Real. He's right here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Biden said in an interview last week, with CNN, every advocacy group, quote, every advocacy group out there is pushing for more and more and more of what they want. That's their job. Joe Biden said on CNN last week, every advocacy group out there is pushing for more and more and more of what they want. That's their job. He defended his first 8 picks for his cabinet as the most diverse cabinet anyone in America has ever announced. But the group of civil rights leaders he met with on Tuesday, December 8th, may be some of the most experienced when it comes to exerting pressure on public officials. Reverend Al Sharpton said, quote, he said if he won, he would do something about criminal justice, police reform, and specifically mass incarceration. He flew to Houston to meet before I did. He flew to Houston to meet before I did the eulogy for George Floyd. He made specific commitments. I'm saying promises made. Let's see if promises are kept. Now, among Sharpton's questions for Biden was, what kind of attorney general are we going to have? How many blacks are going to be in the cabinet? Derek Johnson said that he viewed the creation of an official post of a national advisor on justice, equity, and advancement, complete with a fully staffed office, as a natural outcome of the promises Joe Biden made during his campaign. Quote, he talked about racial justice equity. In order for his vision to come to fruition, there should be someone who reports to him with that sole responsibility. So what they're talking about, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, and this is one of many meetings that are going to take place. They're pushing to hold him accountable for the promises he made during the campaign. That's what they're supposed to do. And there's going to be more. Now, there was leaked audio from The Intercept of a portion of the meeting, and Joe Biden was talking about a disagreement over the use of executive orders and how he's more reserved in using executive orders. They're trying to push him to use the executive orders more. He's talking about holding back on pushing, talking more about police reform until the January 5th 2021 election in Georgia because of this whole defund the police and how it's afraid it could galvanize the vote of Trump supporters against John Ossoff and Reverend Raphael Warnock for Senator David Perdue, Republican, and Senator Kelly Loeffler in Georgia. And they're correct on that because Biden only won Georgia by a little more than 12,000 votes. And Georgia is a former Confederate state. Outside of Atlanta, defund the police don't really play well through Georgia. Georgia is a former Confederate state. You go to Georgia, there's something in Georgia called Stone Mountain. Stone Mountain is in honor of Confederate heroes who took up arms to secede from the Union. On Stone Mountain, you've got the reliefs. It's a huge carving on the side of Stone Mountain, the reliefs of General Robert E. Lee, I think it's Stonewall Jackson, and Jefferson Davis. Jefferson Davis was the president of the Confederacy out of Mississippi. He was a slave owner. All three of them were slave owners. That's right now. They've turned Stone Mountain into an amusement park. When you go to the top of Stone Mountain, there's a souvenir shop. Because I've been to the top of Stone Mountain in Georgia. There's a souvenir shop. In the souvenir shop, on all the souvenirs are the images of these three traitors to the Union. That's there now. So it's like, I understand what Biden is saying. I understand them pushing for police reform, but Biden's like, well, hold on. We got to win this election January 5th, 2020, because who wins that election determines who controls the Senate. If Republicans control the Senate, a lot of these bills that the African Americans want can't get passed in the Senate. A lot of these bills that we want that are beneficial to us can't get passed in the Senate if Republicans are in control of the Senate and Mitch McConnell is Senate Majority Leader. A lot of this stuff won't even come up for a vote in the Senate. Now, there's some things Biden can do with executive order. First thing he needs to do is reverse the 192 executive orders that Donald Trump has signed. But there are limitations to executive orders. This is one of the things Biden was explaining. There are limitations because executive orders can be challenged in court. And President Obama had this problem also. Some of those executive orders were challenged in court. Okay. So there are limitations to executive orders. There are some things that can be done with executive order. Other things have to pass through the legislative branch of government. But Biden is saying is like, look, this January 5th election right here, 2021, this is critical. If we don't win that, a lot of this stuff that are beneficial, not just to African Americans, but to Americans in general, can get passed in the Senate. Okay. I want to go to this clip here. We're going to go to this clip, then we'll go back to the phone lines. I got to squeeze this clip in here. This is Roland Martin speaking with Derek Johnson, who, unlike a lot of people that's been writing articles and putting out videos about what happened in the meeting, they weren't in the meeting. Derek Johnson was. Let's go to this clip, Jalen.
Yesterday, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the president-elect and the VP-elect, both met with civil rights leaders to discuss a variety of issues, including his cabinet appointments and his agenda when he becomes president. During the meeting, the groups touched on racial equity, social justice, and increased diversity in the Biden-Harris cabinet. Now, of course, we talked about this on yesterday, about this very thing. Now, in an interview prior to meeting with them, Biden said, quote, their job is to push me and my job is to keep my commitment and make the decision. Joining me now is NAACP President Derek Johnson. Derek, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. First off, we look at news coming out that he is going to name Congresswoman Marsha Fudge as Secretary of HUD. Today, of course, unveiling retired Four-Star General Lloyd Austin as his Secretary of Defense, and picking Tom Vilsack to head the USDA. And then, of course, we're still waiting for the other cabinet positions. So far, how would you assess the picks being made for not only administration jobs, but also cabinet level jobs by the Biden-Harris White House?
Too early to tell. We have another 10 or so cabinet positions to be selected. There are over 4,000 appointments to be made. Only about 1,300 require Senate confirmation. And so we are early in the process. As an organization, we want to make sure we set a cadence in terms of our conversation. For us, it's more about the policy priorities. So no matter who is selected, there is a clear accountability dealing with racial equity, something that he said that he will be accountable for.
And when you talk about him being accountable for racial equity, you talk about this position that was mentioned yesterday when it comes to racial equity.
Absolutely. You know, if you say one of the 4 pillars of this administration would do a racial equity, then we want a follow-through on that commitment. We think it's a good thing. It's a forward-looking approach. And the only way to make sure that happens is create a portfolio that someone manage that portfolio to ensure racial equity goes across all departments. Very similar to what he did with climate, which is another pillar. He created a post for a climate envoy that's a direct advisor to him to address issues of climate. We want the same thing for racial equity.
But is that necessary? But when you talk about a particular position, or is that really about, again, the individual who has the authority to execute what needs to happen? I think about Bob Brown. Bob Brown, of course, served in the Nixon administration. He was an MLK to, he was a lieutenant to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. before going to the Nixon administration. Go to my iPad, please. This is a cover of his book. That is, You Can't Go Wrong Doing Right, How a Child of Poverty Rose to the White House and Helped Change the World. I interviewed Bob. Bob, of course, lives in High Point, North Carolina. I interviewed Bob. And one of the things that we talked about, he said, you have to have, you got to have the full backing of the president to be able to get these things done. When he served in that capacity, he's arguably in history the most powerful black presidential aide. And when he met with folks, when he met with departments, when he got the 4-star for Chappie James, when it came to the MBDA, it was made perfectly clear. Nixon says what Bob wants, Bob gets. That's how it has to get done. Biden has to give that type of authority to someone to make these things happen.
That's why this position must report directly to the president. It has to be accountable to the president, and it must be a person who's carrying out the vision of the president that's clearly defined and that all departments and cabinet posts should adhere to. Racial equity is not about one cabinet versus another. It is everything that's done within this administration writ large. And in order for that to be effective, someone must hold that portfolio. Someone must be accountable for some outcomes that are measurable. And the outcomes that are measurable are directed through the West Wing from the president's office. And this person is holding that portfolio. Is it a direct report to the president?
So when we look at Congressman Cedric Richmond, who's going to be over the Office of Public Engagement. He was a part of this conversation yesterday. Would that not be his portfolio? Would that not be something to do, or is this something separate?
So this is separate. I think Cedric Richmond is an advisor to the president. He brings much more in terms of skills, knowledge, and relationships. If his position becomes that, then that's the discretion of the president. We are saying that there needs to be a specific person who is responsible for racial equity. That's the request.
And what was the response?
It was all about conversation. There were no response or demands. This is the first of several conversations that we will be having around a myriad of topics. This is the request from NAACP. There were conversations about all facets of the administration. And how do we establish an ongoing dialogue to make sure we are providing an opportunity to give input as he also share progress of the administration?
Earlier today, he unveiled his pick for the Pentagon, that is retired 4-star General Lloyd Austin. Folks, if y'all could roll some of that video, no need to play the audio yet. And of course, already people on Capitol Hill who are saying that that a waiver should not be granted to allow Lloyd Austin to serve as the first African American to serve as Secretary of Defense. Of course, a waiver was given when James Mattis was named by Donald Trump to be the Secretary of Defense. You have to be out of the military at least 7 years. Austin retired 4 years ago. Has the NAACP taken a position on that? Do you support Austin becoming the Secretary of Defense? And are you calling on Democrats and Republicans to grant that waiver to allow Lloyd Austin to serve?
If he's qualified to serve in office, if we have set a precedence of providing waivers, absolutely. There is no reason why he shouldn't be treated any different than General Mattis when he was situated in the same posture.
We need individuals who can instill confidence in our armed forces. We have just witnessed the sitting president allowing a foreign nation to take a bounty out against men and women who are serving in the military with no repercussion. So we have to instill more confidence for individuals who are making the ultimate sacrifice to protect this nation. I believe General Austin, it would be a fine addition to the cabinet.
Hey, pause it right there. Pause it right there, Jalen. Okay. Let's go back to the phone lines quickly. Then we're going to go to the Redd Foxx clip from the Flip Wilson show. Let's go to, I guess, it's Chago next. Chago, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from, man. We got about a minute. Go ahead, Chago. Thanks for holding.
We just lost Chago.
Okay, let's go to who we have next. Is it John?
John.
Okay, John, welcome to the African History Network show. Thanks for holding. We got about a minute, John. Go ahead with your question or comment.
Okay, just want to talk about the local Detroit councilwoman who wouldn't tolerate Giuliani showing up in Detroit telling his lies.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? We weren't even talking about that, John. What are you talking about?
The local representative in Detroit who agitated and Giuliani showed up in Detroit to his lies about his case.
Okay. Hey, John, we're not on that topic right now. You may call back on our Monday night show or one of the daily shows where they talk about that, but we weren't even discussing that. That wasn't one of the topics we were discussing. Okay. But keep listening, John. I appreciate you holding. Sorry about that, but keep listening, okay? But you can call back tomorrow night, okay? Because we're pressed on time right now. But we're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight. You call back Monday night, we'll get you in, okay? All right, thanks for calling, John. Let's go to Chuck quickly. Chuck, welcome to the African History Network show. Tell us where you're calling from.
Hey, Chuck. Hey, it's me, man. I'm right across from the background. Hey, man, I want to get this out the way. You're doing it well, man. Keep doing
thanks,
it,
Chuck.
Man.
Thanks.
You my go-to guy. I enjoyed this show, man.
Oh, thanks, Chuck.
I really did. Thanks, man.
Yep.
Okay, man.
You have a question? Was that it, Chuck? Oh, okay. Maybe that was it. Let's go to Theo Broughton. Theo, go ahead. You got about a minute, Theo, because I got to get this other clip in. Thanks for holding. Happy Sunday, Theo.
You're welcome. Comment and a question. The comment is that Dick Clark interviewed the country singer.
Charley Pride?
The way he got to the...
Charley Pride? Charley Pride?
Yes.
Okay.
Pride.
Okay.
Yes, Charley Pride. The way he got to the top was because his manager kept him out of sight until they loved his music. Then they brought him to the front of the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happened with Scott Joplin and his sheet music. Anyway,
the king of ragtime, the king of ragtime music, Scott Joplin. Yeah,
that's right.
Right.
His sheet music sold 1 million, and then he wanted to be a part of the World's Fair. His manager told him he shouldn't, but he did anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They put him in a booth next to the biggest band they could to drown him out. But anyway, it was American Bandstand about Dick Clark and Charley Pride. The question that I have is, are you receiving any positive support from the people in Atlanta, Georgia? Because I'm asking everybody I know to call their friends and family there and ask them to donate and call everyone they know to vote by mail or whatever way they have to do it. We got to get control of the Senate. Yeah,
there's a massive effort there's a massive effort in Georgia now. Yeah, some African Americans that don't know the significance of it. So that's the importance of the ground game also in Georgia. We may talk some more about that. We may talk some more about that tomorrow night, and we'll continue to talk about the significance of that those 2 Senate races going up to January 5th.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Theo.
Right, that's urgent.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk some more about it tomorrow night, Theo. You can call back in. Thanks for calling. Okay. All right. Thanks. Okay. Everybody. Now, December 9th was the birth date of one John Elroy Sanford. John Elroy Sanford, known professionally as Redd Foxx. Okay. He was born December 9th, 1922 in St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, he was born John Elroy Sanford, and he was raised in Chicago's South Side. His father's name was Fred. His father's name was Fred Sanford Sr., and his brother was Fred G. Sanford Jr. His character of Fred Sanford was named after his brother. Now, Redd Foxx portrayed Fred G. Sanford on the television show Sanford and Son and starred in the Redd Foxx Show and the Royal Family. His film projects included All the Fine Young Cannibals in 1960, Cotton Comes to Harlem in 1970, Norman Is That You, 1976, and Harlem Nights. Who could forget him in Harlem Nights in 1989? Now, his father's name was Fred Sanford Sr. His father was an electrician and auto mechanic from Hickman, Kentucky. His father left the family when Redd Foxx, or John Elroy Sanford, was 4 years old. He was raised by his mother, who was half Seminole Indian. His mother was half Seminole Indian, and his mother's name was Mary Hughes from Ellisville, Mississippi. And he was also raised by his grandmother and is a minister. Now, Redd Foxx attended DuSable High School in Chicago's Bronzeville neighborhood with future Chicago Mayor Harold Washington. Redd Foxx, or John Elroy Sanford, had an older brother named Fred Sanford Jr., Fred G. Sanford Jr., who provided the name for his character on Sanford and Son. In the 1940s, he met a man named Malcolm Little in Harlem, later known as Malcolm X. They worked at a chicken restaurant together. Earlier this week, we talked about the relationship between Malcolm Little, Malcolm X, and Redd Foxx. Okay, and he was called Chicago Red. Redd Foxx was referred to as Chicago Red in Harlem. I want to go to this clip here. This is from 1974, the Flip Wilson Show, and Redd Foxx is doing the stand-up, and then he does a Q&A after. Let's go to this clip, Jalen.
It's my pleasure to welcome back to the Flip Wilson Show the wealthiest black junk man in America, Mr. Redd Foxx. Thank you very much for your applause. And a lot of you never saw me before in person, maybe just in television, but you're going to love me. First of all, it's a brief synopsis. College. A slight autobiography of me. I was born in December of 1922. I might look older, but it was 1922. Some of you might look better than I do. I don't care how good you look in the face, your heart knows how long it's been pumping. And one morning your heart wake up and say, I ain't going to work today. We were poor in St. Louis, that's my hometown. We were B-O-O-O, or O-O, or O-O-O-O-R. We were poor in 1929, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, and 38, 39, and 40, 41 and 42, 44 and 45. How you love it? My people, I love black women. You see me with the white woman, I'm holding it for the police. I went to school for a while and then I quit. This is my autobiography still. And I got old enough to get married. My first wife, I had a 1942 Buick and her. I left both of them to come to California. Didn't hurt too bad because neither one of them was working. Moving right along. That's always a good thing. I married again. This time, I really fell in love. And then my wife started putting on weight. From 110 to 312. 312 pounds at this very moment. Waiting for me to come home so I can get sick. 312. She thinks I love her because when she gets in the bed, I roll toward her. It gives people who are not married a little advice. If you decide to marry, get an ugly woman. Then when she leaves you, you'll be happy. I like ugly women anyway, because they don't ask for too much. Because they know they ain't going nowhere. I'm not kidding you. My wife, now, she's not a beautiful woman, because you're not supposed to look at a woman like that, but I have friends. I wanted to know how she looked. Ray Charles went by my house to see my wife. And he said she was ugly and gray. That's just about my wife. We'll get on another subject. Some truths. Not anything that would be abstract to any religion or race of people. Because I'm suffering. But I want to say this about what you said about black people. I want to clear it up tonight and forever. White friends, black people do not all look alike. It's you that all look alike. I'm going to prove it. I make a statement, I'll prove it for you. Now, white friends, look all around the room. All the whites look at each other. See that? All of y'all are just white. Now look at us. All different colors. Black walnut. Burnt almond. Chocolate. Chocolate mocha. The milk. Yellow, Bella, light, bright, and damn near white.
All right, pause it right there, Jalen. We got to get out of here. He said Ray Charles went by his house and said his wife was ugly and braille. Okay, we're going to continue this on our social media platforms. So those watching us on Facebook and YouTube, keep watching. We're going to continue, and we'll play the rest of this clip. We're out of time here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. We'll be back Monday. We're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All of my DVD lectures are there and digital downloads also. Remember, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Pastor Mo. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. Okay, let's go back to this clip here. Let me cue this up. Okay, so that's some classic Redd Foxx. That's from 1974 on the Flip Wilson Show. Okay, and then they have questions and answers also, Q&A. So we'll play that also. So let me cue this up to where we left it. Just a second. How's everybody doing? All right, share this broadcast, your social media platform. Share this broadcast, your social media platform. Hold on.
See there? All of y'all are just white. Now look at us. All different
different colors, black walnut, burnt almond, chocolate mocha, pecan, vanilla, yellow, mellow, light, bright, and damn near white. A lot of whites think black people talk bad, but you fail to realize that Southern whites taught Africans English. Africans didn't know nothing about this here and and yonder, and go on and get it and and cobbler. They didn't know nothing about that. Southern whites taught them. Hey, boy, get that there yonder. Get that trunk there, boy, and chunk it over here. Get the gas, chunk it over here. Africans say, Uma. Which means chunk that trunk yourself. Unsafe to speak in America today. I want to mention that, that's very important. You realize, I guess you know it was one in the paper. A Negro tried to stick me up last night. A Negro gonna stick up a black man. Now wasn't that dumb? A Negro gonna rob Zorro. He jumped out the alley, didn't have a gun, a pipe, or a brick. All he knew was karate. Jumped out there and said, stick up. I got a black belt. I said, we don't need it to lower you in the ground. We're going to do something that we've never done before with you on the show. What we're going to do is we're going to take some questions from the audience. There are quite a few things about you that people would like to know. Is it? Certainly. So we're just going to stay loose and let them fire away.
I'd like to ask Redd Foxx if Lamar will get married during the filming of Sanford and Son.
How about Kevin? Yeah.
Our assistant, Redd Foxx. Is it true that you have a Christmas tree in your living room?
Yes. Right. Okay. Christmas every day if you want to believe it. Why to have friends just once a year? That's right. Okay. Thank you very much. Right on. Yes, sir.
Question for both of you. Will either one of you be a candidate for office in 76?
If we do, we're going to kick over. Office, you mean political?
Yeah.
I have no idea about going anywhere in 76. Well, I myself have never aligned myself with any political party, and politics is a completely different bag. It's politicians who start wars. I'm in the love business.
Who gave you your first big break, and is Clero your real name?
Clero is my real name, and I think that was probably my first big break because I had to try to lift that down.
This is for both. Do you have any hobbies? Do you collect anything?
Yeah, chicks. Yes, sir.
Flip, what's your favorite monologue?
My favorite monologue is the one that I'm going to do on my first special next year. I'm working on it, but best is yet to come. You got to do it soon.
I'd like to ask Mr. Redd Foxx about a record that I have that he made about jackasses, and I'd like to know if it would be a party record, and I'd like to know what year it was made, and if it's a collector's item.
Oh, 1956.
1956? So it's a collector's item, basically. Well, that's great. I got it at a swap meet.
Yeah, so the first. Y'all shot tonight. your real name? It's my legal name. My real name is John Elroy Sanford. What I was born with. My brother's name was Fred Glenn Sanford, and I played Fred Sanford on television. Two boys in the family, and that's where it's at.
Is it true that you're Flip Wilson's father?
That's my father. So I'd have to say that Red has always been a mother to me.
All right, so that was from February 28th, 1974, on the Flip Wilson Show. Redd Foxx made another appearance on the Flip Wilson Show. A previous appearance, it may have been his first appearance, he was announcing the debut of a TV show called Sanford and Son. That was also on an earlier episode of the Flip Wilson Show. Okay, so I looked at ReddFoxx.com. ReddFoxx.com is the official website of Redd Foxx, and they have a short bio there of Redd Foxx also. Now, I've studied Redd Foxx in the past, things like this. Notorious for his frank, tell it like it is style, Redd Foxx broke new ground for minorities and comedians alike. By joking about everything from sex to color barriers, he brought simmering and taboo issues into the open. His candor on stage not only jump-started what is now considered a war with censors, but also inspired and enabled other comedians to achieve more than had ever been possible. Redd Foxx was not only the king of comedy, but also a talented artist. He took a sketchbook with him whenever possible and enjoyed creating his own fantastic images or capturing the essence of those whom he loved or admired. He was born John Elroy Sanford. He was born into poverty in St. Louis, Missouri on December 9th, 1922. With a ruddy complexion, Red fast became a nickname. He derived Fox, F-O-X-X, from admirable Major League Baseball player Jimmy Foxx, F-O-X-X. He left St. Louis, Missouri for Chicago when he was 13 years old and supported himself by playing the washboard in a band. When the band broke up 3 years later, he hopped a train to New York City. It was there that John Elroy Sanford, or Chicago Red, met Malcolm Little, a man who would later be known as Malcolm X. In the autobiography of Malcolm X referred to Redd Foxx, or John Elroy Sanford, as Chicago Red and called him the funniest dishwasher on this earth. Now, Redd Foxx began performing as a comedian actor in African-American theaters and nightclubs, often referred to as the Chitlin Circuit. From 1951 to 1955, Redd Foxx teamed with comic Slappy White, who we saw in at least the first season of Sanford and Son, maybe the second season also. I have all 122 episodes of Sanford and Son, all 6 seasons on DVD. He teamed up with a comic named Slappy White, who was a lifelong friend who would also act alongside him on Sanford and Son and the Redd Foxx Comedy Hour. Now, while Redd Foxx was performing in Los Angeles, he was offered a deal with the Duto record label, D-O-O-T-O, the Duto record label. Redd Foxx received $25 for his first recording. In the years to follow, he would produce over 50 comedic albums, during the 1960s as cultural barriers began to wear down. Redd Foxx's audience grew steadily. In 1972, after his film debut in Ossie Davis' movie Cotton Comes to Harlem, Norman Lear signed Redd Foxx as a junk dealer as Fred Sanford on a TV show called Sanford and Son on NBC. Now, Sanford and Son was an adaptation of a British comedy called Steptoe and Son. Sanford and Son was an adaptation of a British comedy called Steptoe and Son. Sanford and Son would also co-star Demond Wilson and LaWanda Page. Okay. And the show was a huge hit for NBC. The show was so big, in fact, that it ranked in the top 10 virtually every week it aired. At one point, NBC even ran the show twice a week. When Redd Foxx left in 1977, it was reportedly because NBC would not give him a dressing room with a window. So he's going to leave the show for a period of time. Grady comes to live with Lamont, stay with Lamont, take care of him. And in the storyline, they say Fred's in St. Louis. And then Fred's going to come back. It's a contract dispute. Fred's going to come back. Grady, played by Whitman Mayo. Whitman Mayo is going to have a spinoff show for a very short period of time called Grady. On that show, Joe Morgan plays his son-in-law. Joe Morgan, who goes on to be on A Different World as a love interest of Whitley Gilbert. And he gets stood up at the wedding. She ends up marrying Dwayne. Please, baby, please. That was classic TV. Oh my God, we damn near fell out when Dwayne married Whitley. But anyway, and then Joe Morgan goes on to be on Scandal. Well, he was on the spinoff show of Sanford and Son that Grady had for a very, very short period of time, called Grady. Okay, all right. So Sanford and Son becomes a big hit for NBC. This contract disputes, Redd Foxx leaves for a period of time in 1977. Now, closer to the truth, however, of why the dispute happened, why he left, was it over a dressing room with a window? Closer to the truth, however, might have been the generous salary offered to him by ABC in an effort to weaken NBC's powerhouse Friday lineup. Okay, when I think when he left in 77, I think that's when the show ended in 77. There was a period of time where there's a contract dispute and he's going to leave and they write him out of the script. He comes back from St. Louis, Missouri. Okay. But he's going to leave NBC eventually and go to ABC. Okay. Closer to the truth, however, might have been the generous salary offered to him by ABC in an effort to weaken NBC's powerhouse Friday lineup. ABC was determined to lure away the Sanford and Son star, and it worked. NBC ratings dropped continuously. Meanwhile, Redd Foxx launched his own show, the Redd Foxx Comedy Hour. He was the executive producer of the program, which first aired on September 15th, 1977. September 15th, 1977, and cast him along Sarah Hardy, Slappy White, Iron Jaw Wilson, Billy Barty, Hal Smith, and Billy Saluga and the Gerald Wilson Orchestra. Now, Hal Smith played Officer Smith on Sanford and Son. He would go on to play Lester Jenkins on 227 opposite Marla Gibbs when Marla Gibbs gets her own show on NBC after The Jeffersons ends its run, like 11 season run on CBS. Marla Gibbs gets her own show on NBC. Now, this is after The Cosby Show debuts and takes NBC from third place to first place. And The Cosby Show opens up the floodgates for all these African-American family-oriented sitcoms. You're going to have 227. You're going to have A Man. But also you're going to have sitcoms on ABC like Family Matters, which stays on the air for 10 years. You're going to have Hanging with Mr. Cooper with Mark Curry and Holly Robinson Pete and Dawn Lewis. Dawn Lewis, we first saw on A Different World. She's going to go on to be on Hanging with Mr. Cooper for a period of time. So you're going to see the floodgates of open up for African Americans for sitcoms because of The Cosby Show. Okay. And Hal Smith is going to end up on 227 with Marla Gibbs as her husband. Okay. And so Redd Foxx was excited about the variety show. He was excited about the variety show's open forum and planned to take full advantage of the opportunity. Quote, I'll be doing anything that can possibly be different from what's been done before. I'll be doing anything that can possibly be different from what's been done before, end quote, he said. He went on to say, I'll be doing skits, bits, obnoxious things. I might do Romeo and Juliet with a gorilla, end quote. Now, in keeping with the show's tone during the introduction, a list of guest stars that would not appear on the program was read. Real guest stars included comedian Andy Kaufman and Bob Epstein's Super Dave Osborne character. During the first episode, well aware that he was infamous for a special brand of comedic routines, he joked, quote, the only thing I can do from my nightclub act is smoke. The only thing, because he's on network TV in the 1970s, the only thing I can do from my nightclub act is smoke. Hey, what's up, Princess Leia? Okay, we got Princess Leia. Her show's on Sundays, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. On 910 AM Superstation. How you doing, Leia? Now, Redd Foxx took live questions from the audience during his monologue, demonstrating his clever and on-the-ball wit. The program's undisciplined nature made it extremely adventurous for the 1970s and challenged both the audience and the censors to speculate what would transpire next. Nevertheless, having only been interested in hindering NBC's progress, ABC was not concerned with how Redd Foxx fared at the network. ABC lured Redd Foxx from NBC, not to help Redd Foxx, but to hurt NBC in the ratings war. So the show was canceled on January 26, 1978. Okay. Now, in all honesty, I remember the show when it aired. It was all right, but it wasn't no Sanford. It wasn't Sanford and Son. Okay. I mean, in all honesty, it wasn't Sanford and Son. Okay. So they canceled it. It first aired September 15th, 1977. They canceled it January 26, 1978. Now, Redd Foxx then took to Las Vegas, where he instantly became a headliner. He enjoyed performing there and continued even while he launched another sitcom for ABC, The Redd Foxx Show. On The Redd Foxx Show, he played Al Hughes, a likable, friendly newsstand owner. The cast was a mix of former co-stars, including Iron Jaw Wilson, and new faces such as Nathaniel Rollo Taylor. Okay. And he just passed away last year, I think it was, or earlier this year. Rollo, okay, Barry Van Dyke and Beverly Todd. The show did not fare well with audience, however, and when production was terminated, Redd Foxx left ABC for good. In 1989, he and longtime friend Della Reese co-starred with Eddie Murphy in Harlem Nights. Though the movie itself received little attention, critics took notice of the pair's performance. Now, the movie was it was a big movie. It was a big movie for African Americans, maybe not for white people. It was a big movie for us. You got Redd Foxx, Eddie Murphy, and Richard Pryor in the same movie. You got Della Reese. Jasmine Guy was on the Cosby Show. She was on A Different World. Leela Roshan. Okay, Sunshine. I mean, it's a classic movie. I've seen Harlem Nights like literally 100 times. That's a classic movie right there. Then you had Danny Aiello, Charlie Murphy. You had all these people in that one movie. That's a classic movie. Okay. You had Richie fall in love with Sunshine. Richie calls his wife. He said, hey, this is Richie. I ain't never coming home no more. Take care. Hangs up the phone. This is a classic movie. Okay. it's too much cussing. It's a little too much cussing in the movie. All right, but it's a classic movie. All right, okay. He said, "You would make love to me, then kill me." You have Miguel Nunez Jr., you have Arsenio Hall, all those people in that one movie. All right, so it may not have been big for white people. It was a big movie for us. So you have Harlem Nights in 1989. Now, after Harlem Nights, CBS jumped and signed. After Harlem Nights, CBS jumped and signed Della Reese and Redd Foxx for The Royal Family on ABC. Della Reese is also in Harlem Nights as well. Okay, who can forget Della Reese? Kiss my entire ass. Now, remember, Della Reese was on an episode of Sanford and Son also. And on Sanford and Son, you had all these stars on Sanford and Son. B.B. King, Lena Horne, Della Reese, all that on Sanford and Son. Then when the Cosby Show comes on in 84, they're going to have even more stars, especially African-American stars, Stevie Wonder and Lena Horne, B.B. King, all these people. And one of the things the Cosby Show did was introduce a lot of younger African-Americans to jazz music and he didn't introduce us to Ray Charles, but expose us to more of Ray Charles. You know, the nighttime is the right time to be with the one you love. That's classic. Okay. So when I hear that song now and the woman sings baby, baby, I think about Rudy on the Cosby Show. Is that you can't dissect it in your mind. At least I can't in mine. Okay. You know, so it's an iconic show, but the Cosby Show wasn't just a powerhouse for NBC. It opened up the floodgates of opportunity for other African-American sitcoms. Okay. The Cosby Show rejuvenated the sitcom genre for the three major networks, NBC, ABC, and CBS, which is terrible. And it took NBC from the number 3 spot to the number 1 spot. So sadly, while on the set of The Royal Family, Redd Foxx suffered a massive heart attack, Della Reese bent over him and prayed, "Don't die, Redd, don't die." But it was too late. The world lost comedic genius Redd Foxx on October 11th, 1991. Redd Foxx's albums stand as proof of his legacy as they continue to sell, topping out at over 15 million copies sold. Now, on that show, The Royal Family, was a very young actor named Lorenz Tate. And Lorenz Tate is still acting. He still looks young, actually, today. Tell you the truth, he looked younger back then. Okay, but he was on the TV show, The Royal Family. All right, so that is a biography of Redd Foxx, born John Elroy Sanford, December 9th, 1922 in St. Louis, Missouri. Now, there was a clip from earlier in the week when we talked about Redd Foxx, and remember Redd Foxx. I played a clip that dealt with Redd Foxx and Malcolm X. This is from Comedy Hype. And this deals with the unknown friendship of Redd Foxx and Malcolm X. Okay, and you have comedian Corey Zuman Miller. Comedian Corey Zuman Miller narrating this. Let's go to this clip.
Harlem, New York, has a rich history of being a social and artistic place for Black artists. During this time, hundreds of notable artists were in the city at the same time, and many of them have crossed paths, even the ones that you never would have expected, including political leader Malcolm X and stand-up comedian Redd Foxx. Corey Zuman Miller, and here's a story that you should know. Malcolm X was in Harlem the same time as Redd Foxx, who was trying to make a name for himself as a stand-up comedian. Knowing what we know about Malcolm now, it's shocking to see how these two polar opposites were once friends. Redd Foxx was born John Elroy Sanford in December 1922. In the early 30s, Sanford moved to Chicago from St. Louis along with his brother and mom. While in Chicago, Sanford gained the performance bug after joining a band called the Four Bonbons. At the age of 16, Sanford dropped out of high school and decided to move to New York with the rest of his bandmates for a chance to make it big. The band changed their name to the Jump Swinging Six. Sanford started out singing. According to him, he soon realized that he was the funny-looking one within his group, so he started to tell jokes. The group broke up after appearing on national radio somewhere in the late 30s. While in Harlem, Sanford got a job at Jimmy's Chicken Shack, where he would meet and become close friends with Malcolm Little. At the time, he was called Detroit Red. Both Little and Sanford had similar beginnings. Sanford had come from Chicago to Harlem, while Malcolm came from Detroit. Both came from tough environments and eventually became hustlers together. The two had a lot in common, so it isn't difficult to see why the two were always together. They were both sharp dressers, and they had similar red hair. In the book Black and Blue, the Redd Foxx story, Sanford said, Malcolm was about the same color as me. You could hardly tell us apart. We both had those conchs, and our hair was red with a high pompadour. And we had them zoot suit pants, just like the high drape pants that Billie Holiday used to sing about in her blues. We became good buddies in a speakeasy, where later on I was a waiter. Chicago Red was the funniest dishwasher on earth. Now he's making his living being funny at a nationally known stage and nightclub comedian. I don't see any reason why old Chicago Red would mind me telling that he is Redd Foxx. The two worked at Jimmy's Chicken Shack in Harlem during the day and hustled the street together at night. They used to rob places together and sleep on rooftops together. Sanford said that he knew Malcolm had his back and he trusted him. Sanford told this piece of information to Anthony Major, who used to run Redd Foxx Productions in the mid-1980s. If Sanford was in a fight, he could turn his back and know Malcolm was going to be on the other side fighting with him. They stole suits and they resold them, dealt marijuana, other petty crimes, all together. When we got a job at Jimmy's Chicken Shack, we had all kinds of hustles going on. It was a business joint uptown, and we made a little extra side bread up in the checks and so forth. Sanford also admitted that he sold many zoot suits, and he and Malcolm stole from a nearby laundry business. They usually sold them on top of the same rooftops where they slept. We'd sell 1 or 2 of them a day on the rooftop, and we never got caught for that. I guess that balanced out some of the stuff that I had to pay for later on that I didn't do. Sanford further reflected on their time together, and he shared how neither one of them at the time was into politics. I remember one time Malcolm and I joined the Communist Party. Maybe not joined it, but signed something or other because they had white broads and food, and I ain't had no food. In about 2 weeks, you dance with these chicks, smell the perfume, and eat the sandwiches. Just couldn't avoid being a part of things like that because it was food, man. Stacked high cake and lemonade, even bologna. You could put your pocket full of bologna. I'd have joined the Ku Klux Klan if they had sandwiches. After running together for some time, Malcolm ended up getting himself into more trouble, making larger robberies and using harder drugs. Foxx decided to distance himself from Malcolm more, although the two were never on bad terms. Malcolm didn't have the showbiz talent, so he didn't give a goddamn what he got into. He'd take on anything to get some dough. He was a little bit more aggressive, but I'd rather be sleeping with a broad and go somewhere to a club and do 15 minutes of comedy than, all of that. After going their separate ways, Sanford continued to perform stand-up throughout the city. He caught a break when a nightclub in Baltimore needed an MC. While in Baltimore, Sanford changed his name to what we all know him as right now, Redd Foxx. Malcolm, on the other hand, can end up getting arrested for burglary and is sentenced to 10 years in prison. While in prison, Malcolm educated himself by reading books on race, religion, history, literature, biology, and linguistics. He converted to Islam and began to follow the nation's principles, led by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. In prison, Malcolm Little changes his name to Malcolm X. After going their separate ways, it would be 20 years before Foxx and Malcolm would ever reunite. A photo had captured the two together after spending time apart. It's unclear whether this was the last time the two would see each other before Malcolm's assassination in 1965. It's fascinating to see these two figures had an impact on each other's lives before they became household names. Before John Sanford was Redd Foxx, before Malcolm Little was Malcolm X. The two were simply trying to make a name for themselves during their humble beginnings.
All right, so that was from Comedy Hype, The Unknown Friendship of Redd Foxx and Malcolm X, Story You Should Know. That was Corey Zuman Miller narrating. Okay, so check that out on YouTube. That gives some background history between the relationship between the two. All right, I want to go to this. I think this is the one I was trying to find. This is another appearance of Redd Foxx on the Flip Wilson show. Okay, I'm not exactly. I think this is 72. Let's go to this clip.
What you say? And be careful, too.
Flip, in the first place, I want you to know how delighted I am to be a guest on your new show.
Thank you.
And I'm well aware at this early evening hour, a great many young people are watching.
Yes, yes.
So I prepared some material especially designed for young folk.
Great.
Now, children, there were these two traveling salesmen. No, they were selling yo-yos.
Oh.
You know, I was only teasing. You know, I love children. I wouldn't do nothing to offend one of them. See, I think children are a blessing.
Yes.
And when you see couples with no children, you feel sorry for them. You know what I mean? They don't know what it means to watch their 5-year-old come in the house with $150 worth of braces in his mouth, broken and bent on a 5-cent piece peanut brittle. See, and couples without children, they don't know what to do. They're just laying somewhere on a yacht, relaxing, on the beach all day, laying around drunk. No, kids, drinking is a sin. Stop drinking. Don't be drinking, kids, because that soda pop will rot your teeth out. You know, I was talking about that to my wife just the other day, Flip.
How is your wife?
Well, she's all right if you like her.
Red, I don't want to have your wife mad at me. You better explain that to the people.
No, I mean, she's a wonderful woman, but she just happens to be on the large side. When I come home every day and walk in the house, there she is, in an orange negligee. You know, she weighs 326 pounds.
Really?
Yeah, 326 pounds. Thinks I love her because when she gets in the bed, I roll toward her.
Say, Red, you just finished a very successful tour, didn't you?
Yeah, I made a great swing through the Southwest.
Yeah.
And you know, they speak an entirely different language down there.
But clean.
Oh, yes, clean, but different. For example, take a little word like foe.
Foe, you mean the enemy?
No, I mean foe that's less than 5. You know? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh.
And so.
You mean like with a needle, right?
No, I mean like when you get your head whipped, it gets soaked.
Oh, so.
Yeah, that's where they talk about it. And like flow,
yeah.
Flow is like what we standing on, that's the flow. And roll. See, roll sound like rowing?
Yeah.
It's like a lion's roll. Roll line, you know what I mean? And show.
Yeah.
See, show is like at the edge of the lake, you know? Meet me at the show. You know what I mean? And whoa.
Trouble, right?
No. That's like when your shoe is wore out. And smoke.
Now, what is smoke?
Smoke is like a second helping. See, I don't smoke.
Red, you know why people talk that way, don't you?
No, why?
Well, they heard those words in popular songs. Like for a long time ago, there was this song called "River Stay Away from My Dough." Now, obviously, this was a fella singing about his pet deer who couldn't swim. River, stay away from my dough. So he took the little dough inside the house and shut the door. And he sang, "River, stay away from my door." But everybody around there knew he didn't care about the door. He was worried about the dough. So from that time on, whenever they were building a house, all the architects and carpenters and the builders would say, never mind finding a place for the windows. Where we gonna put the door?
Okay, well, I told you I had something for kids.
Yes.
I got a tongue twister. Can you stand back a little bit? Give me a little room. You know what I mean? A little more room. I need all the room I can get. Can you give me a drum roll? Tiffany, are you ready? Ready? Go then. I bought a batch of baking powder and baked a batch of biscuits. I bought a big basket of biscuits back to the bakery and baked a biscuit of big baskets. Then I took a big basket of biscuits and a basket of big biscuits and mixed the big biscuits with the basket of biscuits that was next to the big basket and put a bunch of biscuits in the basket into a box. Then I took the box of mixed biscuits into the biscuit mixer and the biscuit max and brought the basket of biscuits and the box of mixed biscuits and the biscuit mixer to the bakery, opened up a can of sardines, had me a ball.
All right. All right. So that's some classic Redd Foxx. That is from that's from the Flip Wilson show. And that has to be, I think that's about 1972. Okay. That's on YouTube also. Redd Foxx, Flip Wilson. That wasn't the exact one that I was looking for. It may have been later in that same show. I want to see if I could find the exact one I was looking for. I thought I had it bookmarked. Some of these things, there was an interview with Bill Boggs that Redd Foxx did. I had that bookmarked. But there was another one. It was another segment from the Flip Wilson show I was trying to find. So let's try quickly here to see if I can find it. If not, we'll have to do it on another show. But let me see if I'm gonna try a couple things here. Yeah, I thought I had this. I thought I had this bookmarked, but I guess I don't. I think it was 1972. He announced the premiere of Sanford and Son. Hold on, let me see something here. All right, so that was it's a clip that they did a skit where Redd Foxx was a heckler in the audience and Flip Wilson is doing stand-up, and it's from 1972, January 1972. Yeah, so that would be January 13th, 1972, because Sanford and Son debuted January 14th, 1972. I'm looking at the entry for Sanford and Son on page 301 of Blacks in American Television, Blacks in American Films and Television, an illustrated encyclopedia by Donald Bogle. This is a classic book. Donald Bogle is the godfather of African American cinema. He's written a number of books. In this book right here, I got this back in May 23rd, 1995. I was still at Wayne State University. So this came out in 84, or let me see, what's the copyright on this? 80, originally published, 88. This came out in 1988. So every African American movie and TV show, every movie and TV show with a significant African American character up until like 1988 has an entry in this encyclopedia. Okay. And it has the Cosby Show, has Sanford and Son, page 301, Sanford and Son, right here on this page here. So it tells you when the show aired, when it ended, who directed it, who starred in it, synopsis, all that background information. Okay. This is a deep, deep book. I think this is out of print. I don't even take this out the house. Okay. This page 302. So you see Fred and Lamont Sanford. This is a classic book. I mean, I've done like lectures dealing with the history of African American TV shows, things like that. You can't hear. What can't you hear? You couldn't hear what? Can you hear me? You should be able to hear me. Okay, y'all can hear me, right? Okay, so yeah, movies, TV shows, things like that. The Cosby Show is in here. Cosby Show is page 263. Cosby Show premiered September 20th, 1984. Cosby Show is page 263. Yeah, this is a deep book right here. So Donald Bogle is the man. Okay. So check out this other clip here with Redd Foxx. That's what I was looking for. So that clip is from January 13th, 1972. 1972, because Sanford and Son debuted the next day, which was January 14th, 1972. All right, that's page 360. Okay. Last story that I probably, okay, so this is what we'll do. Oops. This is what we'll do. The clip dealing with grown men versus grown males. What we'll do that segment tomorrow night, but what I'll do, I'll go ahead and play it. I'll play the clip right now. You can get your thoughts together. Then we'll deal with this on our Monday night show. So here's what happened on the TV show Sister Circle Live, which came on TV One Monday through Friday, like 12 noon. You had Selena Johnson, singer Selena Johnson. You had Miss Quad from the reality TV show Married to Medicine, I think it was, and Rashawn Ali. Okay, and also you also had Trina Braxton on as well, but Trina Braxton wasn't on this episode. So they talked to DeAndre Whitfield, and DeAndre Whitfield was talking about a book that he's written and relationships, and he's breaking down the difference in this segment. He's breaking down the difference between a grown man and a grown male. They have this at Sisters. They have this on TV One's Facebook page and Sister Circle as well. This is the excerpt, but they also have the full 8-minute clip. Okay, let me go to this clip here.
Looking to serve himself first. Grown male walks into the room looking to serve himself first.
A grown male.
A grown male.
It's a
so
difference,
a
guys.
man looks to be of service. A grown male looks to be served.
Oh my God! Listen, you got. I'm almost about to walk out. I can't do that. I can't leave. I don't know what else to do. I need you to. No, seriously.
Yes.
And I think a lot of women are in relationships with grown males and in marriages with grown males, and then you end up getting divorced because you were in a marriage with a grown male,
exactly
and
that.
not
So,
a man.
Exactly that. So here's what I want you to think of.
All right.
Think of yourself. Think of yourself in a relationship, in a home, in a bed with a boy who is 15 years old, who just took over the body of a 35-year-old male.
Okay, so We'll talk about that on Monday's show. Okay. We'll talk about that on Monday's show. Let's see. Let's get to this last story here quickly. So all 50 states, contrary to what Donald Trump believes or hallucinates or is lying to his followers so he can get them to donate more money. He's donated. These idiots have donated $250 million since the November 3rd election, thinking that they're going to be able to overturn the election. No, that's not going to happen. All right, including businessman Frederick Eshelman, who we talked about Thursday when the story broke from the U.S. Supreme Court, including businessman Frederick Eshelman, who is suing the pro-Trump election ethics group. What's the name of this group? True the Vote. He's suing them for $2.5 million because this dumbass donated $2.5 million to this pro-Trump group, who they said they were investigating. They said they were. This is a group in Texas that promised to file lawsuits in 7 swing states as part of its push to, quote, investigate, litigate, and expose suspected illegal balloting and fraud in the 2020 general election. Well, he realized that they weren't holding up their end of the bargain. And, after trying to contact them and things like this, he's suing them to get his money back because they ain't doing, they're not exposing election fraud. They're not overturning the results, none of that stuff. So he realized wrestling is not real. Read this article from theguardian.com. Trump supporter who gave $2.5 million to fight election fraud wants money back. I wonder why he wants his money back. These are idiots, right? So we talked about this. We see the article from the New York Times. Supreme Court rejects Texas suit seeking to subvert election. We see the article from the Washington Post. I did a special broadcast Friday dealing with this. So it was Friday. This special broadcast Friday dealing with this. December 11th. Supreme Court dismisses bid led by Texas Attorney General to overturn the presidential election results, blocking Trump's legal path to a reversal of his loss. The Supreme Court on Friday, December 11th, dismissed a long shot bid by Donald Trump in the state of Texas to overturn the results in 4 states won by Democrat Joe Biden, blocking the president's legal path to reverse his re-election loss. The court's unsigned order was short, and it denied Texas's request to sue Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. These are states that have heavy African-American populations in inner cities: Atlanta, Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia, and Milwaukee. Okay, all have a large African-American populations. Over how so Texas, the U.S. Supreme Court denied Texas's request to sue these 4 swing states over how they conducted their elections. Okay, Texas has not shown it has a legal interest, quote, in the manner in which another state conducts its elections, end quote, the order said. It dismissed all pending motions about the case. Now, what's interesting is you had 126 Republicans in the House of Representatives who signed on to this idiotic nonsense also. This is like really an attempted coup to overthrow the will of the people, to overthrow lawful elections. The election results have been certified by all 50 states. All right. Now, if you're alleging fraud in this election, these 126 House Republicans, are you saying it was fraud in your race also? The race that you went, all y'all were on the ballot on this election. You were on the same ballot as Trump and Biden. Are you alleging fraud in your race that you ran also, or only it was people voting for Joe Biden? There was no fraud in your race, and you were on the same ballot. People voted on the same day. There was no fraud in your race. It's only people that voted for Joe Biden that was fraud. None of the 74 million votes for Trump was fraud. None of the 74 million votes for Trump was fraud. It's only the 80 million because Biden got like 7 million more than Trump. It's only votes for Biden are fraud. None of the votes for these House Republicans are fraud. That's the argument that you're making. Okay, so The Electoral College always votes on the first Monday following the second Wednesday on December. Electoral College certifies the vote the first Monday following the second Wednesday in December. Well, that falls on December 14th. abcnews.go.com has an article dealing with this. Also, NBC News has one as well, dealing with the Electoral College meets on Monday. Here's what to expect. The 538 members will cast votes for president and vice president. The 538 members of the Electoral College are set to cast votes for president and vice president on Monday, December 14th, marking another step toward making President-elect Joe Biden's victory official. Now, some people who can count already knows it's official. You got other people who are hallucinating a reality that doesn't exist, watching Fox News and listening to Newsmax, listen to these idiots, and they're not dealing with reality. Now, the vote is traditionally a little more than a formality, but this year, with Donald Trump resisting his defeat at every turn and waging long shot legal battles with baseless claims, there have been like 55 lawsuits. They've lost all except one. The one that they won was in Pennsylvania, and that dealt with how far away poll watchers had to be to watch people counting the vote. The Republicans wanted the Trump campaign, they wanted the poll watchers to be 6 feet away, as opposed to like something like 15, 20 feet away. They won that one. So they could be 6 feet away. Okay. You can watch them vote and your ass still lost. Okay, whatever. Now, the electors will seal Biden as the winner ahead of his swearing in at the inauguration on January 20th, 2021. His margin of victory in the Electoral College is expected to be 306 Electoral College votes to Donald Trump's 232, if there are no surprises. All right. Now, what is the Electoral College? While the public elects members of Congress, governors, state legislators, mayors, and other local officers, the nation's highest office is determined by the Electoral College, not the Electrical College, not the Electoral College, because there's no I in the word electoral. It's the Electoral College. The Electoral College is an obscure vestige of the U.S. Constitution. Goes back to the Philadelphia Convention in 1787. That was established as a compromise between empowering Congress or a popular majority with the ability to elect the president. In every presidential election dating back to the country's first election in 1789, voters cast their ballot for a slate of electors who are often party loyalists nominated by a state's political party to pledge support to the nominee. Now, I've done an entire presentation back in 2016 dealing with the Electoral College, how it works, the whole history, things like that. Okay, we're not going to get deep into it here. I may re-air that. But many people mistakenly think that the popular vote does not matter. That's not true. The popular vote does matter. The popular vote does count. It's not the national popular vote that matters. Okay. Okay. It's not the national popular vote that matters. It is the popular vote per state that matters. There is really truthfully, there is no national election. You have 50 individual state elections. Okay. 50 individual state elections that take place. Okay. Restream is the service I use to broadcast through Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at the same time. That's Restream. And Restream is the service I use to rebroadcast these shows throughout the day. That's Restream. Okay. All right. Sherwin and Sherwin was asking about Restream, and somebody else was asking about Restream. Okay. All right. So the Electoral College always votes the first Monday following the second Wednesday in December. You win the Electoral College votes associated with a state by winning the Electoral College votes in a state. Okay. You win the Electoral College votes associated with state, like the state of Michigan has 16. You win that by winning the popular votes in the state. So it's the popular vote per state that matters, not necessarily the national popular vote. So in 2016, Hillary Clinton got 3 million more popular votes than Donald Trump, but Donald Trump won Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania by a total of 78,000 votes. He won Michigan by 10,704 popular votes. Okay, there's rampant voter suppression, some voter apathy, Russian intervention, people lying on social media telling your vote doesn't matter, which was a damn lie. It did matter. And then Donald Trump, after the election, thanked African Americans who stayed home and didn't vote. He said, you not voting was almost as good as the black people who voted for me. Because we don't understand, many of us don't understand how it works. Now, this election, people realize these people on social media were lying to us. We're going to vote this fool out of office. All these people talking about don't vote and all this. We just going to do economic empowerment and do like the Asians and build 5-story buildings, all this stuff. The Asians came out and voted too. Because the Asians vote. People that say Asians don't vote, that's not true. I've done a presentation dealing with that and showed you the evidence. Asians do vote. Their voting patterns are different than African Americans because Asian Americans are coming from about 26 different countries that have different histories, speak different languages, come from different cultures, and many of them come from countries where they don't have a history of voting because they couldn't vote. So their history is totally different. The history of African Americans, we're a much more homogenous group. In 1900, 90% of African Americans lived in the South as a legacy of slavery. We have a much more homogenous group. We have more similarities, regardless of which region of the country we're in or which city we're in. And African Americans, our primary language is English. When you deal with Asian Americans, they're coming from 26 different countries, China, Japan, Sri Lanka, India, Cambodia, Vietnam, South Korea, okay, Thailand. They're speaking different languages, have different cultures, have different histories, coming from different types of governments. You can't compare the two. If you actually understand history and actually know what you're talking about, you can't compare the two. You can't compare Asian Americans as a voting group and as deal with voting patterns, compare that to African Americans. Totally different histories. Okay, much the Asian Americans, there's much more variance there. Now, African Americans are not a monolith, but if you actually understand history and know what you're talking about, we are a much more homogenous group than Asian Americans are. Maybe I'll re-air that lecture also, that presentation as well. So a lot of people learned in 2016, they made a mistake in not voting. They said, oh, no, we ain't doing that this time. We need to vote. OK, and if our vote didn't matter, why did Donald Trump work so hard to suppress the vote? Why did Donald Trump work so hard to slow down the post office for delivering mail? Why was he attacking mail-in votes, mail-in ballots? Why was Donald Trump attacking mail-in ballots if the popular vote didn't matter? So people started realizing, oh, you know what? These people on social media that were lying to us, telling us don't vote, and we just going to do economic empowerment, invest in the stock market, all this stuff. That stuff is good. But I said, my degree is in business administration. I said, that's good. We need to do that. But we also need to vote for a president whose policies are going to protect the economy that our African-American owned business operates within and depends upon to survive. Consequently, because Donald Trump mishandled the coronavirus, it then tanked the economy. And as of April 2020, African Americans, we've lost 41% of our businesses. Forbes.com had an article dealing with this, citing the New York Federal Reserve, a study from the New York Federal Reserve. That's as of April. As of April 2020, we lost 41% of African American owned businesses. By now, it's at least 50%, probably closer to 60% of our businesses are gone. They ain't coming. Most of them are not coming back. So economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, all that stuff is important. But politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Politics and laws and policies regulate and create the environment, influence the environment, the economy that your business operates within and depends upon to survive. So now, because you have millions of people unemployed, going back to like March of this year, And because a coronavirus bill hasn't been passed between the House and the Senate, it's being blocked in the Senate by Moscow Mitch McConnell because Democrats in the House of Representatives passed the $3.4 trillion HEROES Act back in May 2020. Okay. And because of July 31st, 2020, the $600 a week in additional federal unemployment insurance expired, people who were getting that have $2,400 less in their budget. So now these businesses are taking a huger hit because you don't have that money and you don't have another stimulus check coming. Okay, unless they pass a bill. So businesses are continuing to hurt and continue to go out of business. On the other side of this, come January, February, there's going to be a massive number of evictions taking place. Now, the African Americans went out and started business in the past few years because they were listening to people tell them we don't need to vote, we just need to do economic empowerment. Many of them have lost their business investment. Many of them are going to file bankruptcy. Okay. On the other side of this coronavirus pandemic is going to be a massive number of evictions and foreclosures, which is then going to lead to a massive number of bankruptcies. There's going to be a massive number of evictions and foreclosures, which is then going to lead to a massive number of bankruptcies. Economic catastrophe, not understanding that you got to vote for a president who's going to protect the economy that your business operates within. And also, as a business owner, you have to realize that your business relies upon people having money to spend with your business. So Moody's Investments analyzed Joe Biden's economic plan, his Build Back Better plan, and Donald Trump's, and they concluded that Joe Biden's plan would create 7 million more jobs than Trump's plan. So we have to understand how all this connects. All right. So the electors who reflect the distribution of power across the states, you also have to vote for a House of Representatives and a U.S. Senate. They're going to pass bills that are beneficial to the economy, beneficial to small businesses. It's not just police reform. That's good. But you also, it's a House and a Senate that have to pass bills that help small businesses also, that benefit the economy as well. So the electors who reflect the distribution of power across the states based on congressional representation are decided every 4 years by each state's political parties in the months before the presidential election. The process for choosing the electors varies by state, with some nominating their electors at party conventions, while others leave it to voters to elect them during the primary process. The electors are often prominent figures in each political party. In New York, both former President Bill Clinton and 2016 Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton are electors for Joe Biden. Voting rights advocate, while Stacey Abrams, the 2018 Democratic gubernatorial candidate and voting rights advocate, will be an elector for the president-elect in the state of Georgia. In South Dakota, where Donald Trump won, Republican Governor Kristi Noem, Noem, a possible 2024 presidential contender, will cast her vote for Donald Trump. So then they talk about when and where are the electors meeting. The electors are required by federal law to meet the Monday after the second Wednesday in December of presidential election years. Okay. The first Monday after the second Wednesday in December is when the Electoral College meets and votes. But they gather in each of their respective states and the nation's capital at places determined by the state legislature. Quote, the Electoral College is not an institution. It does not exist over time. It doesn't even exist in any one physical place. And it is not like, so I guess it's like Hillman College, because Hillman College doesn't exist either. Okay. It's kind of like Hillman College. It's fictitious, but it's not one location. It's the series of electors coming together for this one moment and then dissolving, said Richard Pildes, Pildes, a professor of constitutional law at New York University and an expert on election law. Quote, and once they have cast their vote, these votes can't be changed. Once they cast their vote, these votes can't be changed. Most will convene inside the chambers of their state capitals to cast separate ballots for president and vice president. The time of the meeting is also set by each state, so expect votes to be cast throughout the day on Monday, December 14th, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the middle of a pandemic, a number of states are transforming the quadrennial gathering from pomp and circumstance to a bare bones formality with much smaller crowds and limited public access, if any. So what do we look for? What can we look for when Electoral College votes? Each state's slate of electors will cast 2 votes by paper ballot in a typically low drama affair. Once the votes are tallied, the elector signs 6 certificates with the results. The separate certificates are submitted to the archivist of the United States, the president of the Senate, which is the country's vice president. So Vice President Kamala Harris will be the president of the U.S. Senate, the Secretary of State, and to the judge of the U.S. District Court of the district where the electors met. The candidates who receive a majority of the vote across the Electoral College, or 270 votes, are formally elected to the White House. The candidate who receive a majority of the vote across the Electoral College, or 200 is 270 to get it, because it's 538. The 538 Electoral College votes to get. Whoever gets 270 or more, it becomes president-elect. Now, what about so-called faithless electors? Faithless electors. Some experts are not anticipating any spectacles with faithless electors this year. Richard Pildes, a professor of constitutional law at New York University, said, quote, because Joe Biden has won with such a large surplus of electors, 306 to Donald Trump's 232, which was also the same results when Trump ran against Hillary Clinton. So he called that a blowout in the Electoral College. So why isn't this a blowout in the Electoral College? Because Joe Biden won with such a large surplus of electors, the temptation for any 1 or 2 electors to defect is not present because it could possibly affect it, because it could not possibly affect the outcome. And if the political parties have done their job in putting forward slates of electors who are going to honor the popular vote in the state for their candidate, which we have every reason to believe they were, then the electors are going to vote in accord with the popular vote in their state. Okay. But it is still a possibility, quote unquote, but it is still a possibility. Some can break their pledge to vote for their party's nominee, as 7 successfully did in 2016, but this has happened very few times in the nation's history. Now, earlier in 2020, we posted an article about this when it happened and recently. Earlier in 2020, the Supreme Court ruled on the faithless electors case, making it constitutionally permissible to bind electors to vote for the popular vote winner. To bind electors to vote for the popular vote winner. Now, what's important for people to understand is the electors that vote in the Electoral College, those are party loyalists. So for the state of Michigan, Joe Biden won the state of Michigan. So it's going to be a slate of 16 electors for the Democrats voting for Joe Biden. Okay, they're made up usually of party loyalists. They're not going to vote for Trump. One, Biden won Michigan. Two, they're party loyalists, so they're not going to vote for Trump. Okay, so worrying about faithless electors is a moot point, especially when you have this type of margin, and you have a candidate who won the popular vote and got more votes than any other candidate in history. He won the popular vote by 7 million, and he won the Electoral College vote. Now, 33 states and Washington, D.C. require electors to keep their pledge. In at least 5 states, penalties exist for defiant votes, while over a dozen states cancel and replace the rogue elector. More laws are likely to be enacted over the coming years to require electors to follow the popular vote. Okay. All right. So check out the rest of this. This is from abcnews.go.com. Washington Post has an article dealing with this as well. Electoral College voting. So does NBC News. I looked at all of them. But I did a presentation back. I did a presentation back in 2016 dealing with the Electoral College and how it works and things like that. And a lot of misinformation people operate based upon. So people believe the popular vote doesn't matter. No, that's not true. It's the popular vote per state that matters, not the national popular vote, the popular vote per state that matters. So this year, more people realize that a lot of these people they've been watching on social media, telling them don't vote and all this stuff, they realized they were lying. They realized they were lying. All right. Hey, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ the AHN Show through Cash App, $ the AHN Show through Cash App. Then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show, and at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. It helps us stay on the air. Keep doing 6 nights a week and even going over, because we schedule for 2 hours Sunday night, but we go over on our social media platforms. We do 2 hours on 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. Monday through Friday, we're on 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. And we usually go over there as well, at least a half hour we go over. African-American business owners, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. And we can create a commercial. You can send us a commercial, okay, a video commercial, or we can create one for you. And you can send us a script, bullet points, and we take your 30-second to 60-second commercial. We put into the rebroadcast of these shows, the video rebroadcast of these shows, and then we also put it into the audio podcast of these shows. Also, we're on 9 different audio podcast platforms as well. Okay. We're on iHeartRadio, Castbox, the TuneIn, FM Player, iTunes. So wherever you get your podcast from, search for the African History Network Show, the African History Network Show. We have a page there. We're on Stitcher also. So we have a special promotion going on right now. We have a few more slots left. Email us customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. It'll take us a couple of days to put together your commercial, unless you already submit us one, unless you already have a video commercial ready to go, and that's good. But we create a commercial for you, no additional charge. All right, how you doing, Leah? Carl, what's this? Carl Kilcrease, 51. Carl, 90. Okay, so everybody follow us on our fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network on Facebook. Click on like, follow us, and turn on live notifications so you know when we go live. Also follow us on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on YouTube. Subscribe and turn on notifications. You have to click the bell so you know when we go live. Okay. so you get the notifications, because a lot of people don't get the notifications. A lot of people subscribe, but they don't get the notifications for when we go live. Look, we have to get out of here. Remember, the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace.